The town square is packed with an angry mob, all eyes locked on the execution platform. A voice rings out, demanding the sinner be brought forward. Guards shove Enlai roam through the crowd. With her messy white hair and simple dress, she stumbles barefoot across the stone path. The crowd erupts, their shouts echoing through the square. They call her a villainess and question how she's still alive, demanding her end. Suddenly, something is hurled from the crowd, striking her hard in the head and forcing her to stagger forward from the impact. An official shouts Enlai Rome's name, unrolling a scroll. Her crime echoes through the square, an attempt on a royal's life. The verdict? Her immediate end. The crowd goes wild, demanding justice as Enlai is secured for her final moments. But amidst the jeers, a different scene unfolds. The future crown princess, Lilia, sobs in Maxwell's arms. The crowd whispers, Enlai is the villainess, and Lilia, her innocent victim, is the one who will wear the crown. As Enlai kneels, she wonders if knowing the truth sooner would have mattered. The harsh reality hits her. Everything was a complete lie. Lilia's sweet, innocent act was just a mask for her cruelty. The kindness and warmth she showed were all fake. Worst of all, the feelings of her fiancé, Maxwell, were a deception from the very beginning. Her whole life, every moment she treasured, was built on a foundation of betrayal. The final blade drops, and her world goes dark, finally bringing her a moment of peace. A priest offers one last mercy, asking for her final words. But Enlai hangs her head, thinking it no longer matters. With her last breath, she doesn't curse her betrayers. Instead, she utters a simple prayer, asking God to have mercy on them. The final moment comes, but instead of the end, her purple eyes fly open in a flash. She gasps, her body jolting as if struck by lightning. Enlai is not gone. She's somewhere else, forced back into the world of the living against her will. Annalie's body jolts violently as a powerful energy courses through her. Elsewhere, priests fall to their knees in awe, crying out that an oracle has finally descended. Their long wait is over. God has performed a miracle. A divine message rings out, declaring that a revived one has been sent to the world. Enlai finds herself on an altar of flowers, alive and breathing. She gets straight to the point. Somehow, she has come back to life. After her execution, Annalie's body was tossed onto a street corner. But strangely, days passed, and she remained perfectly preserved. As people wondered about this bizarre sight, a divine oracle came down from the heavens. The message declared that with evil running rampant, a revived champion would be sent to face it. Acting on the holy words, priests gathered her remains and placed them in the temple. Just like that, Enlai was resurrected whole once more. But instead of relief, she lets out a heavy sigh, completely exhausted by this unwanted second chance. Enlai processes her new reality. Time didn't rewind, and she wasn't reborn. She's back in the exact same body she died in, complete with the terrible mark from her final moments. She questions why God didn't just save her from the start. Now, the very people who condemned her are calling her a saint, showering her with treasure. But Enlai hasn't forgotten their cruelty. She scoffs, wondering if they really expect her to forgive them and be their savior. Just then, an attendant announces that the crown prince has requested to see her again. The attendant tells Enlai her mother is waiting, reminding her that she can see her family anytime. But Enlai isn't interested. In a shocking move, she grabs her fork and drives it straight into her own hand. Her attendants completely freak out, stammering that they'll leave before running for the door. Once alone, Enlai reflects on the changes in her body. She now has monstrous healing, endless stamina, and super sharp senses. As the wound on her hand vanishes, she drops the bandage from her neck, revealing the fatal mark is also gone. Stepping onto the balcony, Enlai reflects on her bizarre new status. Everyone is now convinced she holds some incredible holy power, believing she's the key to saving their world from crisis, just as the oracle foretold. The very people who threw her away are now desperately trying to see her, consumed with anxiety. But Enlai knows a secret. They haven't discovered her real ability yet. She realizes they're all just terrified that their supposed savior might disappear on them again, either by death or by choice. Enlai looks to the heavens with pure sarcasm. She wonders if God really thought that just fixing her fatal injury would be enough to win her over, especially since her supposed allies are keeping her locked away. With a hollow apology, she tells the divine being that they absolutely chose the wrong person for this whole savior business. Her mind is made up. This time, she will find a way to end things on her own terms, and far more gracefully than before. Annalie's mind drifts to the man at the center of her old life, her fiancé, Prince Maxwell. This wasn't just any royal. He was the crown prince, her betrothed since birth. Growing up in the palace, Enlai did exactly what was expected and fell in love with him. It was easy, almost like breathing, and she gave him her whole heart. The problem? Looking back, she realizes she never truly knew his side of the story. She was never sure how Maxwell actually felt about her. Whispers fill the streets. Duchess Rome has collapsed from shock, but the public is judging Enlai for refusing to see her own mother. Listening from the shadows, Enlai realizes a critical detail. They haven't announced she's missing. They're overconfident, thinking they can find her easily. But the divine oracle has already spread the word of her absurd resurrection across the land. Everyone knows the savior is back. Now, the temple, the imperial family, and House Rome are all getting involved, turning this into a massive, high-stakes game. Enlai knows exactly what's coming. Every faction, from the temple to her own family, will scheme to drag the revived one over to their side. As the feeling of being pulled in every direction overwhelms her, she realizes her future is painfully obvious. With a grim determination, she decides there's only one thing to do: run. She has to find somewhere, anywhere, to hide. Before the search parties mobilize, she slips away. Luckily, the priests shower her with gold, giving her more than enough money to fund her great escape. Clutching a magical relic she smuggled out of the temple, Enlai blends into the crowd. Her escape plan is going smoothly until a divine knight stops her in her tracks. Annalie's heart hammers against her ribs. Is she caught already? But she quickly remembers the relic is working, completely changing her appearance. There's no way he can recognize her. The knight, Samuel, points to her in and warns her not to go back. He claims a petty criminal is hiding inside and tells her to wait until the building is secure for her own safety. Thinking on her feet, Enlai tells the knight that since his search might take a while, she needs to step away for a moment. Samuel agrees, pointing her towards some nearby shops. Their eyes lock for a tense beat, making her wonder if her cover is blown. She plays it cool and agrees, but the second she turns the corner, she makes a run for it. Hiding in a library, she racks her brain. The disguise magic was perfect, and she only checked into that in this morning. How could they have possibly found her? Enlai knows there's nothing in her room that can identify her. Thinking fast, she slips into a nearby shop and pays the old owner to let her use the back exit. She's confident they'll never catch her now. As she steps into the quiet alley, a small, furry creature with a striped tail pops up, looking annoyed. The talking animal immediately scolds her for being late and beckons her over. Annalie's perfect escape plan hits yet another bizarre snag, leaving her totally stunned. How does this tiny creature know who she is? Enlai reveals she has an amazing partner helping her, this talking squirrel she met shortly after being resurrected. A bitter memory flashes through her mind. The same people who had screamed for her demise, calling her a vile human, suddenly started worshipping her. The moment the oracle declared her the revived one, their hatred turned to praise. Enlai is disgusted. They completely forgot they were the ones who wanted her gone. She scoffs at the divine plan, sending a savior to a world where the people themselves seem to be the real evil. Enlai questions why she should care if those people are consumed by evil. She never asked to be brought back anyway. After all, you only feel regret when you have something to lose, and by the end, she had nothing left. All she ever wanted was peace. So, after her resurrection, she tried to end things on her own terms. But the watchful priest stopped her every time. Eventually, they removed anything she could possibly use and began leaving her completely alone, hoping to avoid provoking another incident. Enlai flashes back to her time as a prisoner in a suffocatingly perfect garden. It was a beautiful cage, so carefully designed that there was nothing she could use to escape her unwanted life. One day, a tiny visitor appeared. Immediately suspicious, Enlai demanded to know who sent the creature, assuming it was some kind of magic. But the little squirrel just started screeching, accusing her of stealing its acorns. In that moment, Enlai realized this wasn't some divine messenger. It was just an ordinary, very angry squirrel. A realization hits Enlai like a bolt of lightning. She can understand animals now. She recalls this moment vividly. It was the first time since her resurrection that she truly felt anything real. As she sat in that garden prison, she reached out and gently patted the furious little squirrel on its head. That tiny act of connection was all it took. A strange, new power awakened inside her, a brilliant green light blooming from within, signaling a massive shift in her unwanted life. Her destiny was about to change. From that day on, Enlai began turning animals into her helpers. While there were some scuffles and failures, she knew they were still far better than people. Desperate to get out of the city, she asked a majestic eagle if there was anywhere she could go to get help. The eagle confirmed that there was and flew off, promising to talk to someone it knew. Back in the present, Enlai waits, reflecting that the eagle still hasn't come back. A voice then asks her to wait there for a while. Annalie's mind races. She's certain that the persistent holy knight, Samuel, is still scouring the city for her. This only makes her escape more urgent. Frustrated, she wonders where she could have possibly slipped up. Turning to her squirrel companion, who is busy complaining about its dirty fur, she asks for an update. The news is bad. Their one escape route, a hole used by wild dogs, has been discovered and sealed by humans. Enlai sighs, annoyed. It figures that people would get in the way again. Just then, a hand extends, offering her a sack. The hand belonged to her squirrel companion, who proudly delivered the promised payment, a big sack of plump acorns. Enlai sighed, resigning herself to waiting for the eagle she'd sent for help. But just then, a shadow fell across the window. She glanced over and her heart dropped. It was him, the relentlessly persistent holy knight, Samuel. She dove for cover behind a curtain, her mind reeling. How did he find her so quickly? Thinking fast, she ordered her squirrel to hide, promising to get it more acorns later as a reward. The squirrel quickly scurries away. With Samuel right outside, Enlai is out of options. She pulls out a green pendant, frustrated that she has to waste one of her limited appearance changes. Left with no choice, she activates the magic. In a flash of light, her iconic white hair and purple eyes are gone, replaced with a much more common look. She can't figure out how he keeps finding her. It's like there's a tracking spell, but she hasn't seen any mages. Suddenly, footsteps echo outside and she freezes, trying to convince herself he'll walk past. Heavy footsteps halt right outside the door. A calm, determined voice cuts through the silence as Samuel declares he knows she's inside. He speaks directly to the revived one, saying the temple understands her confusion and only wants to ensure her wandering doesn't lead to danger. Annalie's blood runs cold. He isn't just searching randomly, he's talking with the absolute certainty that the person he's looking for is right on the other side of this door. Cornered and out of time, she turns to face her pursuer. Samuel offers her time to think, but makes one thing clear: for her own safety, she must accept his protection. He then steps deliberately towards her. Sticking to her disguise, Enlai plays dumb and coolly asks who he is. The knight formally introduces himself as Samuel, a servant of God. The name echoes in her mind, triggering a faint memory from her past life. She definitely knows that name, and suddenly, her already complicated situation feels a whole lot more dangerous. A memory floods Annalie's mind. She recalls the stories of Samuel Vent, the second son of a great house whose future was sealed when he manifested immense holy power as a child. Back in the present, she confirms if he's that famous noble. Samuel coldly informs her that temple servants abandon their family names. She can call him Sir Samuel. Playing along, Enlai agrees before flatly denying she's the one he's looking for. But the knight's gaze is unwavering. He declares that no matter how she changes her appearance, she can't deceive him. Annalie's mind raced. Her magic disguise was perfect, so how could he possibly know? She demanded to know how he was so sure. Samuel's reply was absolute. He could never fail to recognize the one chosen by God. He patiently repeated that the temple understood she needed time. Enlai appeared to agree, thoughtfully stating she did need to think. But then, she slammed the door shut right in his face. Peeking from the side, she told him she had absolutely no intention of letting him inside and that he could do as he pleased. Samuel remained completely still, unfazed by the door slamming in his face. Inside, Enlai listened closely, realizing she couldn't hear any footsteps walking away. Frustrated, she wondered if he planned to stand guard outside her door forever. Letting out a heavy sigh, her hand went to the green pendant on her neck. It all made sense now. The necklace was a treasure from the temple, and Samuel possessed an exceptional amount of holy power. His divine senses must have detected the artifact, allowing him to see right through her magical disguise. Enlai replayed their conversation, a sudden realization hitting her. She remembered exactly where Samuel's intense gaze had been fixed, not on her face, but on her neck. A frustrated breath escaped her lips as she admitted she'd gotten careless. Of course, the temple wouldn't just leave a priceless holy artifact lying around without a way to track it. Now she finally understood the cause of her mistake. With a look of pure determination, Enlai vowed that she would never let herself be caught like that ever again. Annalie's mind turned to Lilia, a woman she considered her complete opposite. Though Lilia hailed from a fallen noble family, her life was a series of lucky breaks. By chance, she made it to the capital, got sponsored by a count, and even attended a royal banquet. Her charmed life was a stark contrast to Annalie's own path. That's why Enlai wasn't worried when Maxwell showed interest in her. After all, despite her good fortune, Lilia was still just the daughter of a ruined house with no real power. Enlai remembered believing she was destined to be the empress. Back then, she could pretend not to see Maxwell's little detours. At least, that's what she told herself. But her tolerance reached its limit on her birthday. A royal aide apologized, explaining that His Highness had a sudden urgent matter. Furious, Enlai demanded to know if that woman was more important than his promise. Storming off, she saw Maxwell with Lilia. He had chosen to be with another woman, on her birthday of all days. Enlai snatched a glass of wine, her anger simmering. Without hesitation, Enlai tipped her glass, drenching Lilia's blonde hair in red wine. The girl stood frozen in shock. As the crowd gasped, Annalie's hand then met Maxwell's cheek with a resounding crack. The entire hall fell silent. Attacking a member of the imperial family was a crime punishable by death. Looking back on that day, Enlai clenched her fist in frustration. She thought that if they had just dealt with her then, she might never have been resurrected into this unwanted new life. Enlai awoke, thinking what a rotten way to start the morning. Her thoughts were cut short as her door creaked open. Standing in the doorway was Samuel, the Divine Knight, who noted that she was up early. Enlai glanced back, her annoyance clear. Right, she remembered, this man was here now. Later, she found herself walking through a bright, bustling town square, surrounded by people. She was genuinely surprised that her supposed guardians had actually allowed her to go outside. It seemed her new life came with a personal warden. As her personal warden, Samuel told Enlai he would escort her, so she could go about her business. She scoffed, asking what he thought she was going to do. The stoic knight simply replied that her actions were not his concern. Pleased with his answer, Enlai walked off. A moment later, Samuel was holding a pouch dripping with a dark red substance. He asked if she bought raw meat to prepare her own meals. Enlai just shrugged, nonchalantly calling it a hobby as she looked to the sky, completely unbothered. Samuel, completely baffled, asked if she really planned to keep the raw meat in her room. Stopping in her tracks, Enlai turned around with a devious smirk. On the ground, her shadow twisted into the shape of a wolf. She coyly asked if he was worried she would use the meat to command some kind of creature. The Divine Knight, caught completely off guard, insisted that was not what he meant. But Enlai just stepped closer, enjoying the way she could easily fluster the stoic man. Enlai laughed off his concern, asking what evil creature would even want dead meat. She poked Samuel's armored chest, bluntly announcing that she was simply bullying him to make his life difficult. The baffled knight asked if her plan involved the pouch of raw meat. With a wicked grin, Enlai revealed her idea. She would let the meat rot in her room and then serve it to him for dinner. She just wanted to see that stoic face of his finally crack. But Samuel, ever the pious knight, simply clasped his hands, accepting this bizarre threat as another holy trial from God. Samuel wasn't even fazed, declaring her bizarre threat was just another holy trial from God. Completely over it, Enlai just wanted to head back and rest. But Samuel couldn't let it go, asking why she'd waste her strength tormenting him. She stopped, coldly stating that evil deeds don't need a reason. A grim memory of her execution flashed by as she reminded him of her vicious reputation. Unmoved, Samuel told her she could abandon that past now that she was the revived one. Enlai just sighed, already sick of her new title. Samuel began to preach again about what the Lord had planned for her. But Enlai, having had enough, spun around and cut him off. She warned him that if he kept pushing his faith on her, God might just send him a trial where he'd have to eat raw meat himself. Leaving him stunned, she walked away. Later that night, Enlai sat by the open window in her room, the pouch of meat left on the sill. The quiet was suddenly shattered as an unfamiliar voice called out a name. Akweli. The mysterious voice belonged to a massive eagle that swooped down, landing right in her room. The majestic bird spoke, asking if Akweli had been waiting for its return. Enlai confirmed it without hesitation, a dark, knowing smile spreading across her face. With a look of pure confidence, she asked her old companion if it had finally come back to help her. Enlai asked her winged companion if he'd found a way to help her escape. The eagle excitedly revealed he talked to someone he knows, a big bro, who could pick her up and fly her away. Stunned, Enlai couldn't believe a bird that massive actually existed. The eagle explained that for his brother to swoop in, she'd need to be in a wide, open space. With this new information, Annalie's expression hardened as a new plan began to take shape in her mind. Enlai steeled her resolve, knowing this was her final plan. Elsewhere, a cloaked figure strolled through a crowded area, with Samuel trailing close behind. This decoy, posing as Enlai, quickly realized Samuel wasn't tracking her by sight. He was using a magical temple treasure, a necklace. A smirk formed on her lips. If she just handed the necklace to someone else, she could create the perfect diversion. After all, Samuel had never even seen the real Annalie's face. Now, she just had to wait for the perfect moment to act. Samuel casually mentioned to the decoy Enlai that while she could attend the sermon, she wouldn't get a good seat. This was the perfect opportunity. The temple plaza was a massive, open space, ideal for a giant bird to land. Plus, with a huge crowd of pilgrims watching, even the holy knights wouldn't dare use force. Since a quiet escape was impossible, she decided she might as well leave in plain sight. Her plan was set, but one doubt remained. As she looked to the sky, she spotted a bird and wondered if it was really her ride. Annalie's decoy couldn't shake her skepticism. She remembered the eagle mentioning his big bro was red, but she had never heard of a giant red bird capable of carrying a person. Just then, a child in the crowd pointed to the sky, shouting that something was coming. A massive, winged silhouette descended with terrifying speed. The crowd erupted into chaos as they recognized the creature. It wasn't a bird, it was a monstrous red wyvern. The decoy's face twisted in horror. The eagle had conveniently left out one very important detail. Amid the chaos, Samuel is knocked to the ground but quickly recovers, shoving his way through the crowd to pursue his target. This is the moment the decoy was waiting for. She drops the magical tracking necklace. A squirrel darts forward, snatches the jewel, and plants it on an unsuspecting pilgrim. The real Enlai, watching from a distance, thinks her plan is a success. But just as she turns to disappear, a hand clamps down on her shoulder. Samuel saw through the entire trick and caught her, leaving him stunned. Enlai is totally floored. How did he find her? She got rid of the necklace, so this makes no sense. As the crowd screams, she sees Samuel holding back, obviously being cautious around the innocent believers. He can't go all out. Realizing this is her opening, she stops overthinking it. This is her one chance to get away. With renewed focus, Enlai bolts, determined not to waste the perfect chaotic cover provided by the descending red wyvern. The massive red wyvern circles above the chaos, its voice booming as it demands to know which person is Enlai. Suddenly, the eagle from before spots her on a rooftop and calls out to its big bro, pointing her out. Waving a black cloak, Enlai shouts her location, ready for her grand exit. As the eagle zips past, it gives her a final warning to brace herself. In a flash, the wyvern's giant talons snatch her from the building, yanking her high into the sky. Her escape was a success. Enlai winces as the wyvern's talons secure their hold, yanking her into the air. High above the chaos, the beast confirms with the eagle that it grabbed the right target. A smile touches Annalie's lips as she realizes their daring plan worked. Soaring into the blue sky, she reaches out a hand, whispering to herself that she's finally free. Back on the ground, Sir Aaron takes aim with his bow, ready to fire. But another knight grabs his arm, shouting for him not to shoot because someone has been captured. Sir Aaron begs Samuel for the order to attack, insisting they can't let the wyvern escape and risk more casualties. But Samuel flatly refuses. He explains that the revived one has been taken, so they must act with caution. This revelation sends a shockwave through the crowd. The believers are stunned, realizing the woman just snatched away was the savior sent by the Lord. Completely misunderstanding the escape, they start weeping, convinced Enlai heroically sacrificed herself to protect them from the beast. This wasn't a kidnapping, it was a noble sacrifice. Clutching the black cloak Enlai left behind, Samuel replays the scene in his mind. She didn't run. She didn't hide. Instead, she climbed right onto the stage and waved it, making herself the perfect target. A voice echoes in his memory, a firm declaration that her name was not Revived One. As he stares up at the empty sky where she vanished, the truth finally dawns on him. The savior everyone was looking for and the woman taken by the beast were the same. He softly says her real name, Enlai Rome. At the Rome estate, Annalie's older sister, Phrygian, is in a panic. She insists their family must be the ones to find her first. But her father, Duke Rome, coldly shuts her down with a single command to sit. The Duchess rubs her temples, overwhelmed by the chaos, as Phrygian blames the temple for their incompetence. The Duke stands alone, grimly facing the truth. The daughter their house cast out has been resurrected as a savior, a turn of events that is now giving him a massive headache. Duke Rome demands an update from his son, Maxwell, who confirms he's seen the record orb. The silver hair in the recording was undoubtedly Annalie's. Maxwell also reports that he restored the family's voting records. The overwhelming consensus was clear. The revived savior must be brought back into the Rome family, officially making her one of them again. The Duke then asks what their supposed seer, Lilia, has to say. But Lilia can't see anything. The Duchess scoffs in disgust. The girl they adopted for her precognition is completely useless when it actually matters. The Duchess laments that Enlai was always the one who best carried their family name. If not for her supposed limited lifespan, they never would have chosen Lilia. The Duke, cutting through the regret, orders a search party organized immediately. He knows that if the imperial family secures the savior first, she'll never be returned to them. With a grim and determined look, The Duke declares that what belongs to the Rome family must remain with the Rome family. This isn't just a crisis, it's their golden opportunity. Meanwhile, at the Imperial Palace, the Emperor is not playing games. He slams his fist on the table, declaring that the Imperial House must find the savior first. He tells Maxwell to take an active role in the search, reminding him that Enlai was once very fond of him. But Maxwell complicates things by pointing out he already has a new fiancée, Lilia. The Emperor scoffs, reminding Maxwell that he himself once called Lilia too weak for the Imperial family. After all, even with the Rome name, her origins are still a problem. Maxwell quietly disagrees, stating that's not how he remembers the Emperor's words. But the Emperor doesn't care. He declares Enlai is a divine blessing, and bringing her into the Imperial family will only strengthen the nation. He orders Maxwell to secure her for the palace, even if she can't be the crown princess. As Maxwell gives in, his mind drifts to the past. He remembers a younger Enlai, earnestly pledging her undying support, a stark contrast to the girl the Emperor just dismissed as being from a ruined house. Maxwell recalls Annalie's words from the past. She had once told him that even though their relationship didn't begin with love, she truly believed they could grow to care for each other. Meanwhile, across the city, wild rumors about the resurrected savior are spreading like wildfire. The latest gossip is that she threw herself in front of a wyvern. Unbeknownst to the gossiping townsfolk, a disguised Enlai is sitting nearby, listening to their conversation. She can only sigh in disbelief, wondering how such ridiculous stories about her even got started. Enlai sighs, tugging at a strand of her newly dyed brown hair. She's never done this before and has no idea what she's doing, but it's better than being recognized. After that recording or broadcast her silver hair to the entire world, staying incognito is a must. Just then, a huge eagle named Aquila swoops down from the sky. The bird carries a message, thanking her for recommending a nesting spot on behalf of its big bro. Enlai smiles, saying it's the least she could do since he got branded a kidnapper for helping her. The eagle Aquila adds her own thanks, explaining that Enlai has been feeding her raw meat this whole time. Because of her kindness, the eagle's babies are growing up strong and healthy. Enlai quietly says she's glad to hear it. As the bird departs, her expression turns cold. A bitter memory of her parents flashes in her mind. Enlai scoffs internally, thinking that these animals are nothing like her family. Even beasts, she realizes, know how to properly care for their young. As the wind picks up, she pulls her hood over her head and walks away. Enlai is grateful the wyvern carried her deep into the countryside, but she knows this freedom is temporary. Her pursuers will inevitably trace its flight path, and she can't outrun them on foot. A chilling memory floods her mind, a powerful man's voice declaring that her life belonged to the palace, and she would meet her end there. Shaking off the past, Annalie's resolve hardens. She vows to escape, no matter what it takes. Turning to the eagle Aquila, she asks an unexpected question. Does the bird know any other monsters? The eagle Aquila considers Annalie's question for a moment, tilting its head. Hope hangs in the air, but the bird quickly shatters it with a cheerful and decisive nope. Annalie's expression doesn't change. She takes the rejection in stride. It was a long shot after all. As the wind picks up, rustling the leaves around her, her mind is already racing. If she can't rely on monsters for help, then she'll have to find another way to secure her freedom. A new plan was already beginning to form in her head. With the eagle gone, Enlai was back to square one. Since the monsters were a bust, she decided to try asking other animals for help instead. After everything she'd been through, she knew she couldn't trust a single human. Her goal was simple: find a destination that was as far away and as rough as possible. She just needed an animal strong enough to get her there. But as her stomach rumbled, a more pressing need took over. Before she could plot her escape, she had to find something to eat. Enlai spots a small village, figuring it's her best bet for a decent meal. First food, then a magic tool shop. That's the plan. But as she walks through the quiet streets, a loud thud stops her in her tracks. A man has conveniently fallen right in her path, and he and his creepy-looking buddy are blocking her way. With a smug grin, the man asks where a pretty lady is rushing off to, noting that she doesn't belong. Enlai quickly realizes these guys aren't temple trackers, they're just local thugs. The thug grabs Annalie's arm, sneering that her attitude screams, wanted criminal. She's secretly relieved they don't recognize her face. The men offer a shady escort service for a small fee, but Enlai calmly tells them to get lost. Her cold rejection only fuels their greed. Seeing her as a walking money bag, they refuse to let her go. As one of the thugs reaches for her, she reacts in a flash. A sharp elbow connects with his side, stopping the man dead in his tracks. He never even saw it coming. Before the second thug could move, a massive white wolf appeared out of thin air, landing protectively in front of Enlai. The men froze, completely stunned by the beast's sudden arrival. With glowing golden eyes and bared teeth, the wolf let out a threatening growl. Enlai was just as shocked, but then she heard a clear thought scolding the men for ganging up on one person. It wasn't human. Staring at the magnificent creature, Enlai realized this was no ordinary animal. This was the powerful ally she had been searching for. The thugs freaked out, screaming for the patrol as they booked it out of the alley. The massive wolf simply watched them go, its voice echoing in Annalie's mind once more. It warned that straying from the pack was dangerous before demanding to know where their leader was. Enlai couldn't believe her luck. Finding such a righteous creature right here in town saved her a trip into the mountains. This was the ally she needed. With a hopeful smile, she reached out her hand and began to ask if it would join her. Before Enlai could finish her question, a red-haired boy appeared out of thin air. Grabbing the wolf, he called Nisi. He scolded the creature for charging in alone, then immediately turned to Enlai with a worried apology for startling her. Realizing this was the wolf's master, she watched as he tried to reassure her that Nisi wouldn't bite. But Enlai heard the wolf's real thoughts loud and clear. It was calling its own master pathetic. She understood then that these two were having completely different conversations. Enlai calmly tells the red-haired boy he can let go, assuring him she isn't scared. In fact, she thanks him, explaining that his wolf saved her from a bad situation. Trying to be friendly, the boy introduces himself as an adventurer. But Enlai cuts straight to the chase, stunning him by asking if he would be willing to sell his wolf. She explains that she has a real need for a brave ally and promises to pay whatever price he names. His response is a simple and immediate no. Xenon apologizes, but firmly states that Nisi is not for sale, no matter the price. Enlai considers this for a moment. If the master won't agree, she'll just have to convince the wolf himself. Ignoring Xenon's panic shouts, she kneels and tells Nisi she wants him to come with her, promising fresh meat every day. The wolf walks back to Xenon's side, telepathically telling Enlai that even if his master is pathetic, a leader always protects their pack. Hearing this fierce loyalty only makes Enlai want him on her side even more. Xenon tries to shut her down, warning that Nisi is no pampered pet for a noble lady. This, of course, only makes Enlai more determined to recruit him. As she kneels, a powerful, otherworldly voice echoes in her mind, declaring the boy unworthy to be near the resurrected savior. Suddenly, a new man steps between them, calmly stating this is all a misunderstanding. He tells Xenon he knows this isn't a kidnapping and suggests they all just walk away and forget this ever happened, leaving Enlai stunned by the interruption. As Enlai observes the red-haired boy, her eyes lock onto an emblem on his cloak. In a flash of insight, she realizes he's from the legendary Magic Tower. With this new information, her entire plan changes instantly. Forget the wolf. She points a finger directly at the stunned adventurer with a determined glint in her eyes. She announces that she's changed her mind. She doesn't want his wolf anymore. She wants to buy him. Xenon is so utterly shocked he can barely ask her what she just said. Annalie's mind races as she sizes him up. The Magic Tower is a renegade group of mages, despising both the temple and the empire. Since her face is plastered on wanted posters everywhere, a neutral party is the perfect potential ally. She correctly guesses he's on a trial pilgrimage, a journey where mages seal their powers to train their bodies. This makes him vulnerable. A mage with no magic is just a regular guy, and he'll want to stay out of sight. This is the perfect opportunity for her to strike a deal. Enlai internally smirks. This guy is perfect for her plan. He's someone who just wants to keep his head down and stay out of trouble. Xenon sighs, realizing he's been completely figured out. He admits that she's right. He's on a pilgrimage and can't use his magic to help her with anything. But this is exactly what Enlai wanted to hear. She confidently states that his magic isn't what she wants from him anyway. Her intense purple eyes lock onto him as she prepares to reveal her true intentions. As his stomach rumbles, Xenon bluntly states that he's very hungry. This is the opening Enlai was waiting for. She smiles, explaining that she doesn't need a mage. She needs an experienced traveler to handle practical things like cooking. She then presents him with a heavy pouch of coins, calling it an advance payment. His eyes widen as she promises to double the amount when the job is finished. Seeing his shock, Enlai coolly points out that feeding a wolf and himself must be expensive. Her offer is simple: stay with her and earn some money. As they camp for the night, Xenon observes Enlai and reconsiders his initial impression of the supposed savior. Sensing his stare, Enlai internally scoffs at his pointless thoughts, then tells him to make himself useful. Xenon points to a dangerous route on their map, warning her of wild animals and monsters. Unfazed, Enlai insists they need a quiet, out-of-the-way path. When he hesitates, she reminds him he's getting a separate hazard fee. While stirring a pot over the fire, Xenon grumbles that the bonus is the only reason he agreed to this. After their meal, Enlai gives a rare compliment, telling Xenon she's glad he's actually a good cook. His eyes then drift to her neck, and he identifies the famous holy mark. Annoyed, Enlai touches the jagged scar. She corrects him, revealing it's no holy mark at all, it's simply the scar left from her execution. Intrigued, Xenon asks if he can get a better look. Enlai immediately shuts him down with a cold no, leaving the red-haired traveler completely taken aback by her blunt refusal. Xenon finally explains his skepticism. He confesses that when he first heard about her revival, he just assumed it was dark magic. From his perspective, anyone brought back from that state would be nothing more than an undead monster. Enlai dryly remarks that this must mean the magic tower doesn't believe she truly exists. He confirms he wanted to see her scar to sense the powerful magic behind her return, revealing that even with his own mana sealed, he can still detect it. But Annalie's answer remains unchanged. She simply says, "Still no," and turns away. Internally, Enlai couldn't care less how she came back to life. Divine blessing or dark magic, the details are pointless. She calls out Xenon's typical mage curiosity, giving him a firm ultimatum. If he can't drop the subject, they will part ways immediately. Startled, Xenon quickly shakes his head and insists he'll let it go. The White Wolf, Nisi, observes this, noting that Xenon avoids conflict. As the pack leader, Nisi vows to protect the timid mage, a sweet sentiment that earns him a gentle pat on the head from Enlai. Xenon admits he's surprised Enlai accepted his companionship so easily, but she has no idea what he's talking about. He then asks what he should call her, and she dryly notes it took him long enough. He formally introduces himself as Xenon and his wolf as Nisi. Enlai immediately points out he's been speaking to her informally this entire time, reminding him that she's his employer. Xenon sheepishly tells her to speak however she wants, joking that demanding politeness from a revived saint might get him smited. Enlai interrupts, saying that's not her point. Enlai firmly tells him not to call her by that awful title. A confused Xenon wonders if she means revived one, then cautiously tries Lady Rome. Her deadpan expression makes it clear he's wrong again. Totally flustered, he asks what he's supposed to call her then. With a faraway look, she gives a simple, one-word answer. Enlai. She silently recalls how, in the past, only her most precious people, family, friends, and her lover, were allowed to use her first name. But now, everything has changed. Annalie's mind flashes back to a painful truth. Everyone who once called her by her first name ultimately betrayed her. Looking at Xenon, she states that he's better off just using her name, since it no longer has any special worth reserved for precious people. With a chilling finality, she decides it would be better if the whole world just called her Enlai. She is not the revived one, nor is she the daughter of Rome anymore. That identity has been completely erased, leaving only a new version of herself behind. Xenon reveals that House Rome is sending out search parties, publicly declaring their precious daughter is missing. The news makes Enlai sneer. Precious now? She immediately sees through their lies. They must have decided it would be profitable to get her back. She grew up in that cold, calculating house and knows her family better than anyone. House Rome is a great founding family, but they're also people who wouldn't hesitate to discard their own blood if it served their needs. She's not falling for their act. Annalie's mind drifts back to where it all went wrong. She remembers receiving a terminal diagnosis right around the time her lover, Maxwell, and her friend, Lilia, got suspiciously close. The top-secret news of her condition somehow leaked, spreading through high society like wildfire. As if to prove the rumors true, Annalie's health rapidly declined. While she was wasting away, Lilia smoothly took her place, even cozying up to her older sister, Phrygian, and becoming a constant guest in the Rome household. Enlai could only watch as her life was stolen from her. Before long, Lilia had smoothly taken the role of Annalie's younger sister. Everything Enlai once enjoyed was suddenly being handed over to the new girl. The audacity of it all forced Enlai to become more ruthless, just as she was taught, to protect what belonged to House Rome. Then, the devastating truth was revealed. Her terminal diagnosis was a lie, orchestrated by someone else. That person was Lilia, who sickeningly claimed she did it to help. Enlai was in disbelief. Lilia ordered doctors to fake a fatal illness to help her? Lilia reveals her twisted justification. She claims to have the gift of foresight and saw Enlai dying young and alone. So, to help, she orchestrated the fake illness, believing sickness would make Enlai reflect on her bad deeds and be surrounded by care. The sheer absurdity makes Enlai burst into manic laughter. She tells Lilia she would have gladly accepted her fate. Lilia calls her cruel for not thinking of Maxwell.
Annalie's laughter dies.
Her eyes flash with a cold, terrifying light as she utters Lilia's name, making her flinch. Enlai coldly tells Lilia she's getting way too full of herself. She then orders a terrified maid to bring her a whip, snapping at her to do it now. Trying to play the martyr, Lilia says it's fine, offering herself up to ease Annalie's anger. This ridiculous offer only makes Annalie's fury boil over. Snatching the whip, she screams, asking how Lilia dares think her pathetic life could ever atone for everything she's done. The whip cracks through the air, and Lilia recoils from the sharp sting, clutching her cheek. The only thing that saved Lilia was Annalie's own failing health. Her body, weakened by the fake illness, collapsed before she could unleash her full fury. The consequences were swift and devastating. Annalie's was imprisoned for harming Lilia Rome, the family's newly adopted daughter and future crown princess. Forced to choose between them, House Rome discarded their true daughter. Annalie's knew Maxwell had done the same without even asking. All their betrayals led her to one place, the executioner's block, where her first life came to an end. Annalie's is jolted from her sleep by the haunting memory of her execution. She recalls the feeling of utter defeat, vowing to never stand on that stage again. As her purple eyes snap open, a calming voice echoes in her mind. It's Nisi, her loyal wolf companion, promising it's safe for her to rest. He assures her that his senses are sharp and he will keep watch over both her and the sleeping red-haired man, Zenon. The scene prompts a quiet question. How exactly did these two end up traveling together? Nisi explains telepathically why he brought the unconscious Zenon along. He reveals that ensuring the man's safety was a wish shared by both his mate, Annalie's, and her master. As their campfire crackles in the night, the scene explains their traveling arrangement. They have to camp out because no village would welcome a giant wolf. Annalie's clarifies that Nisi isn't a simple summon, but a real animal she stores in a subspace. The only catch is that as a living creature, he can't stay hidden away in there for very long. Annalie's reveals the one major drawback of her subspace. Since Nisi is a living creature, he takes up all the room, leaving no space for luggage. She isn't worried about anyone hearing their telepathic conversations, figuring they'd just assume she was talking to herself. The real reason she keeps him out is because his partner is desperately waiting for him. But as she pats his head, she spots something terrifying. Zenon isn't asleep. His eyes are open. He's been awake this whole time, and a wave of panic hits Annalie's as she wonders just how much he overheard. Annalie's shivers in her sleep, muttering that the cold wind is getting in. Nearby, Zenon lies awake, lost in thought. He reflects on the deep affection he just witnessed between Annalie's and her companion, a bond so pure that even a beast could feel it. He wonders why he, and the arrogant people who surrounded him, were never able to understand something so simple. With a quiet sense of resignation, he concludes that perhaps people like them never will. As his thoughts settle, Annalie's small voice whispers into the night, confirming it's cold. Zenon asks Annalie's if she'll be okay, wandering the forest by herself. She tells him not to worry, promising not to keep him waiting. That wasn't his real concern, but Annalie's reassures him anyway. She says it's fine since she has the map memorized, and if she gets lost, Nisi will find her. The loyal wolf telepathically adds that if anything happens, she must scream. He vows to come running and protect her. Touched by his devotion, Zenon admits aloud that he's jealous of Nisi receiving her boundless trust. Annalie's tells Zenon he has nothing to be jealous of, cheekily adding that she trusts his cooking skills just as much. A flustered Zenon can only stammer that he definitely warned her. With a quick wave, Annalie's turns and heads into the forest alone. As she walks, she pulls up her hood, thinking it's easier to find animal allies this way. She's relieved Zenon's crew isn't the clingy type, unlike a certain someone. Her thoughts immediately drift to Samuel. She knows without a doubt that he never would have let her go. She wonders what he's doing now. A sudden, heavy silence falls over the forest, and Annalie's freezes. She wonders why it's so quiet, noticing that the animals following her have all disappeared. Just then, two small rabbits hop out, warning her not to go to the center of the woods. They say their mother told them something terrifying lives there. They don't know what it is, only that it's dangerous, and she can't go any further. Annalie's, completely unfazed, just thinks to herself that she was casually hoping to find something cool, like a dragon. Annalie's decides it's probably best to stop here. There don't seem to be any more animals around, and finding another companion as amazing as Nisi would be tough anyway. But just as she turns to leave, an ominous presence emerges from the gloom behind her. Annalie's whips around, her eyes wide with shock. Looming over her is a headless knight mounted on a dark horse with glowing red eyes. It's a Dullahan. She had hoped for a lucky encounter in the forest, but this was absolutely not what she meant. With her heart pounding in her chest, Annalie's wonders how she's even supposed to talk to a monster like this. From afar, her wolf companion Nisi sends a telepathic warning. If anything goes wrong, she needs to scream. But instead of attacking, the Dullahan shocks her. The headless knight dismounts its horse and takes a heavy step forward, dropping to one knee before her. A deep voice echoes in her mind, declaring that he has finally appeared. He introduces himself as Nadab, the ninth knight, who has long awaited her arrival. Anlai is completely bewildered. She tells the headless knight he must have the wrong person, even wondering how he can see without a head. But Nadab's voice booms in her mind, declaring her the captain who will bring them peace. A wild thought flashes through Annalie's mind. Did she become their leader just because she was also beheaded? Deciding to just roll with it, she asks if there are other Dullahans. The knight confirms there were 12 knights of the Round Table, but 2 have tragically sunk into eternal darkness. The headless knight explains that the remaining 10 Dullahans are wandering aimlessly, and Anlai is the captain fated to guide them. She is completely baffled. Nadab clarifies that the other knights have awakened but can't greet her because, well, they're missing their heads. Tired of the riddles, Anlai demands to know what she must do for them to find peace. She cuts him off, bluntly asking if he wants her to go find their lost heads. The knight enthusiastically confirms her guess, completely in awe of his new captain's sharp insight. Anlai clutches her head, completely done with this whole situation. The absurd reality sinks in. The grand reason for her resurrection was to go on a scavenger hunt for some headless knight's missing heads. Meanwhile, Samuel receives a frustrating report. A knight confirms a sighting of a large bird in the search area, but a wyvern on the opposite side complicates things. Samuel lets out a heavy sigh, regretting not handling the wyvern himself. To make things worse, a flood of sightings suggests the Roan family is deliberately spreading false information to hide and lie. Samuel's knight reports that it's hard to tell which information is real. The search is a total mess because both the Imperial and Roan families are interfering. As Samuel listens, a shocking realization hits him. Remembering the wyvern, he understands that Anlai wasn't kidnapped, she escaped. He questions how she gained the beast's cooperation. Was it a divine blessing, or something darker, like the ability to control monsters? Believing she must have landed in a wide, hidden clearing, Samuel slams his hand on the map, narrowing down his search. Samuel stares intently at the map, his mind racing. He realizes Anlai would have aimed for a remote, rural village, somewhere the wanted posters would be slow to reach. A knight approaches, confirming that a witness did indeed see a large bird flying overhead. He offers to send men to question the local villagers immediately. But Samuel shuts him down with a single, sharp no. This wild goose chase has gone on long enough. With a steely gaze, he declares that he's done delegating. He will go and find her himself. She can't figure out how he's still able to track her down, no matter how hard she tries to disappear. The search party finally bursts through the trees, led by a knight shouting her name. He desperately identifies himself as Sir Aaron. Annalie's blood runs cold. Aaron Tosan. She can't believe he has the nerve to show his face to her after everything that happened. Before she can fully process the betrayal, an arrow slices through the air, striking her directly in the shoulder. The force of the impact sends a jolt of shock through her, and she lurches forward on her horse as the other knights scream for their captain. The force of the arrow throws Anlai from her horse, sending her crashing into the tall grass. Pain explodes from her shoulder as her vision blurs. Through the haze, she sees an image of her wolf companion, desperately willing it to stay hidden. Her thoughts drift back to Aaron. He was the one knight who had stayed by her side, the only person who brought her medicine when she was in pain. He had been kind, at least, until he was accused of having secret meetings with her and ultimately sealed her fate with his denial. Her mind flashes back to the trial. Anlai remembers Aaron being questioned by her own sister, Phrygian, accused of secretly meeting her. In a desperate attempt to save himself, Aaron loudly proclaimed his love for Phrygian. He frantically denied being the man seen leaving Annalie's room, insisting it must have been someone else. With those words, he cleared his own name by completely destroying her reputation. To save his own skin, he painted her as a woman with no honor, sealing her fate without a moment's hesitation. As the memory of her trial flooded back, Anlai recalled Aaron's damning testimony. He told the court he delivered secret letters for her to lowborn men, the kind who could be easily silenced. To make matters worse, he claimed he even personally escorted her on these sordid trips. Anlai couldn't believe the lies. This was the same knight who brought her medicine when she was sick, the one she had foolishly trusted. His betrayal was so convincing that her own sister, Phrygian, publicly condemned her, calling her a disgrace to their family. From a distance, Samuel watches the disgusting scene unfold. Sir Aaron, a knight of the Roan family, relentlessly hunts his own mistress, Anlai. He shouts for the other men to hurry, even promising a reward to the first one who catches her. Samuel can't believe their audacity. They're not only attacking her, but have also placed a bounty on her head. Aaron later approaches Samuel, who demands to know if he captured her. Looking ashamed, Aaron apologizes, explaining she used a high-grade magic tool to vanish right before his eyes. As Samuel stands in the windy field, he admits he completely underestimated her. Suddenly, shouts erupt from the search party. One of the men has found a blood trail and urges the others to follow it. A frantic soldier reports to Samuel that Enlai is gone. A monster appeared out of nowhere and took her. Samuel is stunned. This feels just like the Wyvern incident. The more he thinks, the less it feels like a kidnapping. Deciding to investigate on his own, he tells his subordinate he's going to report back to the temple, leaving the others behind. Convinced she's nearby, Samuel races through the dense forest, desperate to reach her before it's too late. As he runs, the hunt replays in his mind. He can't shake the image of the Rome soldiers, how none of them even flinched when Sir Aaron fired his bow at Enlai. They all spoke of finding the revived one, but their actions showed they didn't care about her safety at all. They just wanted the reward for her capture. Samuel comes to a grim conclusion. The Duke's people are completely out of their minds. Samuel pushes deeper into the woods, but something feels wrong. He suddenly halts, a strange feeling washing over him. The forest is completely silent. He realizes the only thing he can hear is the sound of moving water. There are no birds chirping, no small animals rustling in the bushes. This silence is so absolute it feels completely unnatural. His instincts scream that something is amiss, especially since he knows a search party is nearby. Gripping the hilt of his sword, Samuel prepares himself for whatever is hiding in the eerie quiet. Convinced he's not alone, Samuel knows making a sound will expose him. With a sharp whisper of steel, he draws his sword. From the eerie mist, a figure in dark armor emerges. It's a Dullahan. Samuel instantly puts it together. This is the monster that supposedly took Enlai. But it just stands there, a menacing sentinel. Dullahans don't act with such clear purpose. This isn't a random beast. This is a guardian, and it's here on a mission, to protect its master. A figure steps out from the eerie fog. It's Enlai. She looks Samuel dead in the eye, her expression completely flat. She asks him if she's ever mentioned her distaste for clingy men. Samuel can only stare, stunned by her cold reception. Enlai presses on, her purple eyes glinting in the gloom as she tells him that the more she sees his face, the more she dislikes him. This isn't the damsel in distress he was looking for. This is a woman who wants to be left alone. The fog parts to reveal Enlai, her expression as cold as ice. She looks Samuel straight in the eye and asks if she's ever mentioned how much she detests clingy men. Before he can react, she drops another bombshell, stating that the more she sees his face, the more she dislikes him. Samuel is floored by her hostility, but despite her venomous words, he notices her dirt-caked hands. Ignoring her brutal rejection, he extends his own, insisting they need to treat her injuries first. He's a knight, and he's not backing down. Kneeling before her, Samuel gently inspects a dark bruise on Annalie's leg. He's surprised the injury isn't worse, considering she fell from a galloping horse. Enlai just agrees, her expression completely flat. Then she drops another bombshell, stating that a broken leg would have at least made it harder for her to run. Looking him dead in the eye, she calls it a shame that she's perfectly fine. Samuel is left speechless, trying to process her ice-cold logic. He came to rescue a victim, not someone who's disappointed she wasn't hurt more. Enlai is completely baffled by Samuel's gentle treatment. Her mind flashes back to the chaos of her escape. She truly believed she was going to die. She recalls being carried away like a sack of potatoes, her head spinning as an injury on her arm bled uncontrollably. But when she opened her eyes again, she found herself alive, almost as if nothing had happened. Looking down, she realizes the bleeding has stopped and her condition has somehow improved. She's left totally confused by her miraculous recovery and the knight's sudden kindness. Enlai figures it out. Her disgusting regeneration ability must be what healed her. As she reflects on this, Samuel creates a small, crackling fire out of pure holy power. He explains a normal fire would be too easy for search parties to spot, but this should be safe. Enlai is completely unimpressed, calling his method inefficient. She coldly suggests he should just drag her back to the village instead of wasting his strength. Staring back at her, Samuel finally asks if she truly wants to run into her family's search parties. It finally clicks for Enlai. He's not just protecting her, he's protecting her from her own family. Nearby, another man watches from the shadows, and Samuel warns him to get by the fire before the search parties spot him. This newcomer immediately calls Enlai a monster, but she completely ignores the jab. She turns back to the Divine Knight with a much more pressing question. She doesn't care about his holy fire. She wants to know what kind of crazy ability he has that lets him track her down every single time. Enlai had been wondering about this for a while. She admits the first time he found her could have been a lucky coincidence. But the second time, she left absolutely no trail. She demands to know how he keeps tracking her down. Samuel looks away, refusing to answer. Enlai immediately suspects a tracking spell, but he flatly denies it, stating he doesn't use magic. Confused, she asks for the real reason. With a divine aura flaring up behind him, Samuel explains that it's the only power he was ever given. Samuel vaguely explains his tracking skill is a divine blessing, the only power God ever gave him. Enlai is totally unimpressed. She can tell he's dodging the real question, and his evasiveness is starting to get on her nerves. When he tells her to just rest, she reaches out to press him for a real answer. Suddenly, Xenon lunges forward, grabbing her face with a furious expression. But before anyone can react, a blade is at his throat. The knight, Sir Aaron, appears out of nowhere, coldly warning Xenon to take his hands off the captain. Despite the blade at his throat, Enlai remains completely unfazed by Xenon's grip. She calmly tells Sir Aaron to stand down, brushing off the aggressive act as nothing serious. Seeing his chance, Samuel finally answers her lingering question. The real reason he can always track her is because she is the revived one. The horrifying truth dawns on Enlai. He can sense the divine power that reattached her head. With a determined look, Samuel confirms it, declaring that no matter how far she runs, he will always find her in the end. Samuel tries a different approach, asking if it would be easier to just let him accompany her. He points out that Xenon, the one man she trusted, ran off and left her alone. Enlai is simply relieved that he managed to escape safely. But Samuel presses on, questioning why she surrounds herself with untrustworthy people. He angrily reminds her how Sir Aaron, her own knight, shot an arrow at her, an act that could have easily ended her life. As Samuel fumes, Enlai has a moment of clarity, finally understanding why her knight's attitude had changed. As Samuel fumes on her behalf, Enlai realizes she must look downright pitiful in his eyes. Annoyed at herself for getting emotional, she thinks it's utterly useless. Brushing off her knee, she rises to face him. She coldly tells him that if his outburst was supposed to be some kind of pity, he could just drop it. She declares firmly that she doesn't need it from him or anyone else. The very idea that he would dare to feel sorry for her is insulting. The weight of the chase and his shocking confession finally takes its toll. Samuel finds Enlai collapsed inside a cavern, gasping for breath as she clutches her chest. Seeing the look on his face, she grows furious. She mentally warns him that if he feels any pity, he'd better throw it away immediately. She doesn't need it. But Samuel isn't pitying her at all. As he observes her, a serious thought crosses his mind. It isn't pity, but a growing concern. He can't help but notice that she seems much weaker than before. Samuel carefully approaches the sleeping Enlai, reaching out to check her temperature. He pulls his hand back, realizing she's sweating and must have a fever. Considering she fell from a galloping horse, he's relieved nothing seems broken. Still, she needs a few days of bed rest to recover properly. Deciding he must find medicinal herbs and food, he drapes his jacket over her. He then turns to Nisi, promising the wolf that he'll guard its master well. With his new mission clear, Samuel steps out of the cavern and into the night. Annalie's mind flashes back to her desperate escape. She had pushed her horse, Nadav, relentlessly through the night, not sleeping for a single second. The chase left her body an absolute wreck, but she refused to stop. When Samuel finally found her in the cave, she wasn't truly unconscious. Lying perfectly still, she had faked her sleep the entire time. She smirked internally, certain that the divine knight had no idea she was awake, secretly watching his every move. Enlai races onward, pushing her horse through the fading light. She knows Samuel is on foot, but that's not her real problem. He once warned her that he could track the divine power left on her neck. This means she can't stop, not even for a day. A wave of regret hits her as she recalls her plans to meet Xenon. Now, she's certain he bailed. After Xenon witnessed the danger she's in, Enlai is convinced he wouldn't wait around for a promise she might not live to keep. Riding into town, Enlai is filled with regret, convinced she broke her promise. But then she freezes. Waiting for her in the town square is Xenon, with Nisi sitting loyally at his side. He smiles, simply stating that she escaped safely. Enlai is utterly shocked, unable to form a complete sentence. A calm voice fills her head. It's Nisi. The wolf explains it never doubted her. It knew she was strong enough to keep her word, and was certain she would make it to their meeting place. Enlai smiles warmly, thanking Nisi for waiting for her. But Xenon immediately cuts in, insisting a greeting for her wolf is a greeting for him, too. Enlai simply pets Nisi, brushing off his strange logic. Changing the subject, she asks for the magic tool she requested. Xenon holds out a gleaming necklace, leaving her stunned. She can't believe he actually prepared it and waited for her all this time. Suddenly, she understands exactly why Nisi is always so worried about this seemingly weak guy. Enlai finds herself worrying about Xenon. He's just too trusting to grant favors to a stranger he just met. A quick flashback reveals Xenon is fully aware of his weakness. Without Nisi, he'd have been scammed and left for dead ages ago. Enlai warns him to stop being so careless, worried someone might betray him one day. With a smirk, Xenon grabs her shoulder, finding it hilarious that she's the one giving this advice. He tells her she was lucky to meet him. Anyone else would have taken advantage. But then his tone softens, assuring her that the world isn't only full of bad people. Enlai admits that while there are good people, most are just scammers. Holding the necklace, she's totally stumped. It's completely different from any magic tool she's used before, and she has no clue how to activate it. Before she can even ask, Xenon smoothly takes the pendant from her hand. With a simple twist of the center gem, a brilliant golden light explodes around her. He explains that's how it works and adds that it's even rechargeable. Bathed in the glow, Enlai is left wondering how exactly she's been changed. Xenon tells Enlai to pull down her hood. As the fabric falls away, her striking white hair is gone, replaced by a common shade of brown. He explains the necklace gives her a normal appearance, just enough of a change to let her move around unnoticed. Enlai thinks it's not bad, at least she won't have to deal with terrible hair dye anymore. But her relief vanishes when her hand drifts to her neck. She realizes the scar from her execution is still there, a grim reminder she must now keep hidden. As Annalie's fingers graze the scar on her neck, a painful memory flashes through her mind. She's thrown back to that final moment, a man's hand wrapped tightly around her throat. She remembers the cold, merciless look in his gray eyes just before her world went dark. But she forcefully shoves the vision aside. There's no time to get lost in old wounds. With her jaw set, Enlai tells herself she is to get moving. The past is in the past, and she has a new, uncertain future to face. With a slick apology, she takes charge, questioning Annalie's absurd request to buy out the entire inventory. Enlai coolly drops the big guns, claiming she's acting on Duke Rome's orders. Bellona inspects the brooch. It's genuine, all right. But she's still skeptical, noting she received no official message. Enlai understands the suspicion immediately. Her family never dealt in the black market before, so now she has to prove herself. Enlai reveals she didn't come unprepared, ready to drop a bombshell. She leans in and shares a secret. The Lady of Rome was spotted in a nearby village a few days ago. Bellona's face goes pale. She knows it's true and curses the search party for messing up. The shop owner then spills the beans. Duke Rome has ordered all unofficial goods cleared out because the lady is expected to appear in the city. A dangerous smirk plays on Annalie's lips. If her family is going to use her, she'll use them right back. Enlai leans in, ready to drop a bombshell. She reveals the Lady of Rome was spotted in a village just days ago. Bellona's face goes pale. She knows it's true and silently curses the search party for messing up. The shop owner confirms Duke Rome ordered all unofficial goods cleared because the lady is expected in the city soon. Bellona feigns surprise, but Enlai sees right through it. A dangerous smirk plays on Annalie's lips. If her family wants to use her, she'll gladly use them right back. Bellona tries to weasel her way out, suggesting they could just lie and claim they have no goods. Enlai scoffs at the idea. She asks if the shop owner really thinks such a clumsy lie would fool someone raised in the notorious Rome family. Cornered, Bellona asks if Enlai needs the items right now. Enlai demands everything immediately, including the stock from nearby shops. She slides a heavy gold coin across the table as collateral. Seeing the payment, Bellona's greed wins out, and she eagerly promises to gather everything right away. True to her word, Bellona returns, smugly handing over a spatial bag packed with all the goods. She also presents a document with the settlement details. Enlai snatches the bag but waves off the paperwork, telling the shop owner to just send the bill straight to the Rome estate. With a fake smile, she declares that the price is no issue. Her family will definitely pay. Her task complete, Enlai walks away, deciding she'll inspect her haul with Xenon later. She activates a glowing magical device, ready for her next move. As the magical device glows, a strange vision floods Annalie's mind. It's a prophecy about 12 knights of a round table. 2 have already fallen into darkness, leaving the remaining 10 lost and blind. It proclaims that a captain is needed to illuminate the overwhelming chaos. Elsewhere, Xenon arrives at the Grand Library, ready to carry out Annalie's orders. She realizes searching for 12 knights is too vague, so she smartly decides to start by looking up Dullahan instead, pulling a thick book from the shelf to begin her research. Xenon's search for Dullahan led her down a rabbit hole concerning a dark attribute, triggering unsettling visions of monstrous, shadowy beings. Despite her best efforts, she couldn't find the specific information she needed. Crouching in frustration, she grumbled about the useless librarians who wouldn't help someone dressed as a commoner. She'd planned to be in and out quickly, but this was getting her nowhere. Just then, a kind voice cut through her annoyance. A shy, bookish young man with glasses had noticed her struggle and politely offered his help. Putting on a friendly act, Zenon graciously accepts his help. The nerdy young man is thrilled, revealing that he's also aiming to be an assistant researcher. He explains she was in the public section where the books were useless and leads her to a more exclusive area. Zenon plays the part of a clueless country girl perfectly. He's amazed she's applying for the monster division, a field that requires experience. She coolly replies that living in the countryside gave her plenty. Now at the right bookshelf, she dismisses him, ready to finally start her search. Finally, in the right section, Zenon pulls out the Dullahan Exploration Encyclopedia. Skimming the pages, she finds theories on their origins and a list of cited areas. This is exactly what she needs, and for a moment, she considers just tearing out the page. But as she gets ready to rip it, a hand suddenly stops the book from closing. It's the nerdy guy again, sternly telling her she mustn't damage the property. Startled, Zenon quickly denies it, wondering if he's a librarian. He seems relieved, accepting her explanation. The manager's friendly expression hardens as he calmly informs Zenon that he's heard they aren't recruiting for the monster division this selection. He coldly suggests that whoever gave her that information must be mistaken. Zenon's face pales, realizing her cover story is falling apart. The manager leans in, a slight smirk on his face, and tells her that her information isn't just a little off, but completely wrong. Her quick lie has been exposed, and she's caught with nowhere to run. The nerdy guy who tried to help her looks on in confusion. Caught in a lie, Zenon puts on an innocent smile. She quickly claims she was just too hasty and must have misread the announcement. The manager seems to accept her excuse and tells the other guy he'll escort her for a moment. Once they're alone in a private room, Zenon panics, planning to change her appearance and slip away. She tries to leave, but the manager's voice stops her cold. His friendly tone is gone, replaced by a stern warning not to cause a scene. Zenon freezes, realizing his personality just did a 180. He calmly removes his glasses, assuring her he won't report her. He only moved them because they were being watched. As the manager takes off his glasses, a memory clicks into place for Zenon. She finally recognizes his voice. This guy is none other than Heinrich, the first imperial prince who went into hiding after Maxwell took the crown. With a slight smirk, he formally greets her, calling her my lady. Stunned, Zenon plays along, acknowledging their unexpected meeting. Her expression hardens, her piercing green eyes locking onto his. She has just one burning question for the hidden royal. How did he manage to recognize her through her disguise? Zenon's mind races. This guy is Heinrich, the first imperial prince. He was an outstanding royal, but he lost the power struggle for the throne against Maxwell. After his defeat, he was confined to his palace, his life barely spared. Once Maxwell is officially crowned, Heinrich will likely be exiled or worse. So what is he doing here? Zenon demands to know how he saw through her disguise. With a gentle smile, Heinrich asks how he could possibly forget the woman who was once a candidate to be his wife. Zenon brushes off his recognition, claiming they were practically strangers. She explains that while there was a slim possibility of them marrying, nothing ever actually happened between them. Her memories confirm this. She frequently visited the imperial palace, but only ever exchanged formal greetings with the princes. An engagement between their powerful families was never about feelings or familiarity. It was a cold, hard political move to secure power. Back in the present, Heinrich simply looks at her with regret and apologizes, admitting he isn't like his brother. Heinrich admits he's been interested in Zenon for a long time, ever since she was a candidate to be his fiancée. He explains that seeing her from behind made him suspicious, but hearing her voice confirmed her identity. Zenon is stunned, pointing out she was engaged to his brother, Maxwell. With a grim expression, Heinrich explains that showing any interest in his brother's woman back then would have cost him the life he's barely clinging to now. Unimpressed, Zenon demands he get to the point. She's busy and has no time to reminisce. Heinrich makes a strange request, asking her to drop the appearance-altering magic just once. With a light blush, he confesses his true motive. He just wanted to see her real face. In fact, that's the only reason he pretended to recognize her in the first place. Anne Lai is floored. Is this guy messing with her right now? She can't believe he'd come all this way, with his life hanging by a thread, just for a peek. She internally scoffs, thinking he must be a total, hopeless romantic. Anne Lai sizes up the prince, convinced he was offered a sweet deal to capture her. He claims he has no intention of interrogating her, but then warns her not to be so sure. She smirks, remarking that it's a world where you can't even trust your own family. Heinrich agrees she can't trust him either. Changing tactics, he offers her a book she was eyeing earlier. Anne Lai knows it's full of valuable information, but she's not falling for the trap. She demands to know what he truly wants in exchange for this generous offer. Heinrich repeats his simple request. He just wants to see her real face. He confesses that when he heard Enlai had returned, he couldn't believe it. He'd imagined the temple was keeping her hidden, maybe even placing some horrible restriction on her. He admits that's why he's here, to find books explaining her resurrection. Enlai realizes he's just looking for proof that she's truly alive. As she considers his strange obsession, her magical disguise begins to dissolve, revealing her true appearance, while she wonders what he even gets out of confirming it. As the magic dissolves, Annalie's true appearance is revealed. Heinrich stares, mesmerized, confirming that she really has returned to life. His mind flashes back to a past memory, watching her from afar at a lavish ball. Back in the present, a radiant blue light, a symbol of God's blessing, shines down upon her. Enlai is caught completely off guard by his intense gaze. To be looked at with such sincerity by him is a new experience, and she admits to herself that she's honestly flustered by the whole situation. Enlai is floored. Plenty of people adore her before, but she never imagined he was one of them. Announcing that he's seen what he wanted, she turns to leave. But Heinrich stops her, desperate to finally apologize. He confesses he's always regretted not being able to help her, admitting he was too busy protecting himself. Enlai just scoffs, asking when she ever once requested his help. Stunned into silence, he admits she never did. With a smirk, she declares he has no apology to give, leaving him to stew in his own guilt. Heinrich makes a final, strange request, hoping they never cross paths again. Enlai immediately agrees, bluntly explaining that his face reminds her of Maxwell, and she's worried she might instinctively punch him. With that parting shot, she leaves him reeling. Later, the real Xenon is in a full-blown panic. He's discovered she has a book from the Imperial Library and accuses her of stealing. Enlai, completely unbothered by his outburst, coolly informs him that she received it as a perfectly legitimate gift, leaving him to sputter in disbelief. Enlai internally dismisses his apology as complete nonsense. Her mind flashes back to the past, to when she was desperately ill and all alone. She remembers thinking that if just one person had helped her or acknowledged the injustice, things might have been different. For a split second, she wonders if his intervention back then could have changed her fate. But she quickly shakes the thought from her head. It doesn't matter what could have been. His regrets and apologies were a story that came far, far too late to mean anything. Enlai tunes out Xenon's frantic questions, her thoughts elsewhere. He asks if she even heard him, but she shoots him down with a cold, simple no. His feelings are clearly hurt by the blunt rejection, but their conversation is cut short by a knock. A staff member announces they are there to receive her orders. While Xenon looks on in confusion, Enlai calmly tells the staffer to report. They confirm her order and ask when it should be carried out. Her reply is swift and serious. At midnight. Totally lost, Xenon finally asks what's going on. Enlai calmly reveals her master plan. Their fifth-floor room was chosen because the inn doubles as a secret carriage depot, the perfect escape route for slipping out of the city. She tells him to get his affairs in order, because they're leaving at midnight. Elsewhere, Xenon takes a call on a communication orb. An old man appears, absolutely furious that Xenon disappeared without a word. Xenon just says he's been busy, but the man doesn't care. He's enraged about what's happened to poor Nisi. Xenon sarcastically asks if the old man only worries about Nisi, not him. The furious man on the orb yells back, demanding to see the wolf immediately. He reveals the entire tower was so concerned they were about to launch a search party for Nisi. Brushing off Xenon's excuses, the old man orders him to end his pilgrimage at once. He brings up the rumors about the revived one, mentioning that monsters are constantly attacking her. Xenon knows the truth is the complete opposite, and Lai seems to like monsters, but wisely keeps that thought to himself. The man on the orb reveals the magic tower is planning a lockdown. Everyone is being recalled, and he warns Xenon to return before he gets dragged into the mess. Xenon realizes the tower is officially staying out of anything involving the revived one. He decides it's already too late for him. He's going to finish what he started. The old man calls him a stubborn brat, reminding him his mana is still sealed. Xenon formally requests permission to unseal his power, then promptly hangs up, leaving his master fuming. With the intense call finally over, Xenon stares down at the silent communication orb. He mutters in frustration about his master, the same person who kicked him out now demanding his return. Petting the oblivious Nisi, he jokes that the wolf has no idea how hard he's working to earn its food money. He heads back inside and announces his return. Without looking up from her book, Enlai welcomes him back and immediately asks if he contacted the tower. Completely stunned, Xenon cautiously asks if she was eavesdropping the whole time. Enlai calmly denies listening in. Her wild explanation? Nisi the wolf told her everything. Xenon is completely baffled, wishing she would just admit to testing him instead. He would even accept being dumb enough to fall for it. But Enlai insists she's being serious, holding up the still-glowing communication orb as proof. Stunned into silence, Xenon stares at her as an image of her past self flashes in his mind. He always thought he was above worldly desires, but now he realizes, blushing furiously, that he might just be weak when it comes to appearances. Xenon spirals, absolutely mortified that he's falling for someone's looks and imagining his master laughing at him. Anlai cuts through his meltdown, casually handing him a subspace bag. She explains it's stuffed with illegal magic tools she collected and wants him to sort through the faulty ones. As a mountain of forbidden artifacts pours onto the floor, Xenon's jaw drops. He immediately spots highly restricted items, including formulas the tower forbid from ever being leaked and even powerful tools made for attack magic. This is way more serious than he expected. Enlai praises Xenon for doing a good job sorting the illegal tools before heading out to the stables. Xenon stares at a forbidden artifact, baffled at how it ever hit the market. Enlai silently praises her own good judgment and quietly leaves him to his work. Meanwhile, back at the Rome estate, Duke Rome reads a shocking report. His hand trembles as he clenches the document, and he suddenly explodes in fury. He roars Annalie's name, causing two maids outside his office to jump in terror. Phrygian Rome stares at a magic tool invoice, her face twisting in disbelief. The total is absolutely absurd. A maid confirms that Duke Rome expects Phrygian to pay it, as he believes the bill came from Annalai. Learning her father is casually having tea with her mother and Lilia, Phrygian sees red. She storms into the drawing room, demanding to know if he's actually going to pay the ridiculous sum. The Duke calmly agrees. Before Phrygian can argue, the Duchess coldly asks if the great Rome family is suddenly having financial troubles. The Duchess dismisses the bill as an outside matter, but Duke Rome disagrees. With a cold look, he states that since they accepted Annalai back into the family, her problems have become their business. Phrygian is left completely speechless, unable to argue against her father's final word. Seizing the moment, Lilia chimes in, feigning innocence. She sweetly asks her big sister if she's troubled, then wonders if it's all because of her, the new little sister. The passive aggression is absolutely dripping from her every word. Lilia approaches Maxwell, asking sweetly if he's worried because of his sister. He sighs, telling her it's nothing to worry about, but she presses on. Insisting she's a member of the Rome family now, she says she wants to help. Visibly stressed, Maxwell suddenly changes gears, asking if she has had any visions recently. Lilia is caught completely off guard by the strange question. She stammers for a moment before quickly denying it, insisting she hasn't had any prophecies whatsoever. Her flustered reaction says it all. Lilia puts on her sweetest smile, insisting there must be something she can do to help. She turns to Maxwell, inviting him to join them for a cup of calming tea he had gifted them. With a gentle voice, she suggests they can all just relax and talk things over. But Maxwell isn't falling for it. He abruptly stands, apologizing to Lilia and claiming he's too busy with work. After a quick word with his father, he makes a swift exit, leaving Lilia visibly annoyed that he only took a single sip. As he and the Duke walk off, Maxwell promises to bring some tea to his father's office later. Left behind in the tense atmosphere, Phrygian can only sigh, her thoughts consumed by Annalai. The scene shifts to a magnificent, sunlit hall where Maxwell approaches a man with striking red hair. He casually greets him, remarking that it's been a while, brother. The man, Xenon, turns with a knowing smirk. He correctly deduces that Maxwell must be on his way back from a formal meeting with the king himself. Xenon casually asks Maxwell if anything's new in Kelburn before bringing up a juicy rumor Annalai was spotted in the area. Maxwell reluctantly admits he's heard about it. Xenon smells something fishy, pointing out that Maxwell was there at the exact same time. Getting defensive, Maxwell insists he was just cooped up in the library. Unconvinced, Xenon finds it strange Maxwell isn't more interested in her. He then drops a bombshell. The king wants to bring Annalai into the royal family. When asked if he knew, Maxwell coldly confirms he did. Xenon speculates that the king is probably considering adopting Annalai. With a sly grin, he teases Maxwell, suggesting his long, unrequited love might finally see the light of day. Maxwell falls silent for a moment before coldly questioning if that's really what she wants. Xenon scoffs at the thought. He declares that Annalie's desires are irrelevant because she can't defy the king's will. Besides, he adds, since she spent her life trying to get into the imperial palace, there's no place more fitting for her. Finally, he turns the question back on Maxwell. Xenon flips the question, asking Maxwell how he'd feel if Annalai became his fiancée instead. Maxwell is completely stunned. With a cruel smirk, Xenon mocks him, questioning if he looks like someone suffering from a childish crush. He tells Maxwell to just imagine it. Instantly, Maxwell's mind is flooded with a beautiful fantasy of marrying Annalai. He sees her vowing eternal love, looking radiantly happy in his arms, and allowing only him the privilege of calling her by her first name. Maxwell's fantasy suddenly turns sour. The imaginary Enlai tells him he can never have the things he once enjoyed. Xenon's voice cuts through, reminding Maxwell that he already has Lilia. Maxwell's face darkens, and he warns Xenon to watch his mouth. Unfazed, Xenon keeps pushing, questioning why Maxwell still calls Enlai by her first name. Then, with a cruel smile, he declares that Enlai might just become his fiancée soon. Maxwell's fist clenches in silent rage as Xenon thanks him for the delightful idea, promising he'll sleep well tonight. With his parting shot delivered, Xenon turns and walks away, his footsteps echoing in the quiet hall. Maxwell is left reeling, a memory suddenly hitting him. He recalls asking someone why they hated Xenon so much. The answer came back that it was because Xenon looked just like Maxwell, a resemblance that made them want to throw a punch. Maxwell's blood runs cold. He's horrified, wondering if that's the same hateful expression Enlai saw whenever she looked at him. The thought alone is unbearable. Riding through the night, Enlai asks her horse, Nadav, if he remembers his past. She wonders if he was born a Dullahan. Nadav confesses he has no memories. The only thing he knows is that from the moment he awoke, his single purpose was to find her. A vision of a headless knight flashes in his mind. Enlai listens to his story of unwavering loyalty. Then, with a serious expression, she looks at her companion and asks a shocking question. Does he want to find his head? Nadav gently touches Annalie's hair, declaring that she is the one who will show him the path of light. But Enlai is completely unmoved by his faith. Her expression turns cold as she challenges him, asking what would happen if she refused. She presses further, questioning what he would do if she had no intention of finding his head, let alone his comrades, and if his salvation was none of her concern. Nadav stares back, his voice steady as he asks if she has any idea what his fate would be then. Faced with her shocking question, Nadav simply admits he doesn't know. He apologizes for not having a more helpful answer for his captain. But Enlai isn't disappointed. She gently strokes his mane, telling him it's not his fault. With a bitter look, she declares that if anyone is to blame, it's God. As they ride, she can't help but think how strange this world is, where the innocent have to apologize for the guilty. Leaning forward, Enlai quietly wishes she could have forgotten everything too, because it would have been so much easier. Nadav suddenly reveals he has information on one of his comrades. Surprised, Enlai questions him. He explains that enlisting his friend's help could provide information that would be useful to her. Enlai reflects on this strange, loyal creature who follows her without question. He could have blamed her for his situation, but he didn't. Realizing he would follow her even if she abandoned his quest, she decides he's earned a reward. Helping him find a comrade seems fair enough, and she figures you can never have too many subordinates on your side anyway. Enlai decides they'll head back to Xenon first. But when they arrive at the edge of a dark, spooky forest, Xenon immediately objects to their route. Grabbing her arm, he frantically warns her about the dangers ahead, explaining that the area is a known wyvern habitat crawling with raptors. He stresses that even the locals are too scared to set foot there. But Enlai is completely unfazed. She calmly tells him she already knows all of this, leaving Xenon totally flustered. Nisi, the little wolf, just scoffs, calling him a faint-hearted male. Still shaking, Xenon demands to know why they must pass through such a dangerous place. Annalie's answer is simple. She's here to recruit a subordinate. Xenon is floored that she would leave someone in a monster-infested forest, but she calmly confirms it. Her divine horse, Nadav, then speaks up, clarifying it's his comrade they're looking for. He drops a bombshell, revealing a faint memory of riding a wyvern. Horrified, Xenon accuses Enlai of not grasping the danger. Without missing a beat, she asks if he'd rather just end their deal now. Xenon explodes, demanding to know why she always jumps to threats of splitting up. Wasn't she the one who wanted out of their deal in the first place? As he panics, Enlai silently finds his nagging annoying. He's shocked she'd say that when he's just worried, but she simply states it's the truth. Still, she admits he's useful enough to keep around, adding with a small smirk that she likes his cooking enough to put up with the hassle. Completely flustered, a blushing Xenon can only think about getting his mana seal removed. Trying to regain his composure, Xenon huffs that she should just wait and see. He declares that as soon as his mana seal is gone, he's doubling his fee. Unfazed, Enlai simply asks if that's his way of admitting he wants to keep working for her. This completely short-circuits his brain, leaving him stunned and speechless. Taking the lead, Enlai grabs his arm and tells Nisi it's time to move. The little wolf chimes in, telling Xenon to hurry up, adding that he'll watch their backs so the weakling has nothing to worry about. As they venture deeper into the gloomy, fog-filled forest, Xenon's confidence completely shatters. He nervously asks Enlai if they really have to do this, mentioning rumors about ghosts in the area. Unimpressed, she asks if he's actually scared of running into one. He points at a murder of creepy crows, insisting a place this spooky has to be haunted. Suddenly, the crows' eyes begin to glow. In a chilling chorus, they ask the humans where they're headed, warning them that it's dangerous up ahead. While Xenon is terrified of the glowing-eyed crows, Enlai thinks they're adorable. In a flash, the menacing birds transform into fluffy, cute creatures who are thrilled by her compliment. They even tell Xenon he's cute too, leaving him completely speechless. Deciding to stop, he suggests they set up camp, but Enlai asks if he plans on leaving her. When he panics that her wolf can't fight ghosts, she coolly tells him he can just go back to the village and wait. He protests, but she is completely unbothered. Enlai gives the clearly terrified Xenon a glowing blue communicator. She tells him if things start to feel off, he should use it, and she and Nisi will come find him. She even reminds him that his pay is the same whether he escorts her or not, so he can just wait if he feels lost. Xenon reluctantly takes the orb and agrees. For the first time, Enlai realizes his concern is genuine and not just about the money. A little surprised by his sincerity, she turns her horse, ready to ride deeper into the woods alone. Enlai is suddenly plunged into a mysterious memory. A woman's voice explains this isn't a Dullahan on a wyvern, but a scene from her past. It's a memory from before she became the legendary headless rider, from before she lost her head. Listening to the sad story, Enlai instinctively touches her own neck, her expression somber. The vision ends with the woman, now a captain, giving a sharp command to her steed, Nadav. With an answering neigh, the horse prepares to gallop into the star-filled sky. The memory of the headless rider still fresh in her mind, Enlai rides deeper into the forest. She quietly asks her steed, Nadav, if it senses anything nearby. Realizing they have to push through the woods to find answers, they press on. Suddenly, they burst through the tree-line into a vast, open canyon under a clear sky. A flock of massive birds circles high above them. Enlai gazes upward, her expression turning serious, as she confirms that the dangerous rumors about raptors in the area were true after all. Enlai is plunged back into the strange memory. The giant raptors screech from above, calling her an intruder and declaring the canyon their territory. Suddenly, a knight shrouded in dark energy materializes before them. The figure angrily demands how the birds dare act so boldly before their captain. Struck with terror, the raptors recognize the knight as a Dullahan. They squawk in panic that another one has appeared and decide to report it immediately. The vision wavers, and Enlai wonders aloud who they would even report to. Enlai wondered if there was truly another Dullahan nearby. Elsewhere in the forest, a red-haired man named Xenon casually tossed food to a flock of crows. He told them that in exchange for the meal, they had to chase away any ghosts that appeared. The birds, however, completely ignored him and took to the sky. Just as Xenon sighed in frustration, a blue orb in his bag began to glow brightly. A sharp look crossed his face as he announced that he had been waiting for them. Annalie's voice came through the glowing orb, asking if Xenon could find her. He confidently replied that Nessie's sense of smell was more than enough. Enlai then gave him a strange order. Take her horse, Nadav, with him. A confused Xenon started to agree, but Enlai cut him off. She explained she had to step out and couldn't bring Nadav, so Xenon should take him to the village first. Before the bewildered man could get a straight answer, she just told him to hurry over and abruptly ended the connection, leaving him stunned. Xenon grabbed his head in a panic, yelling through the orb and demanding to know if that giant thing behind Enlai was a wyvern. His question was answered immediately as the scene shifted to Enlai, who was indeed soaring through the clouds on the back of a massive red beast. A giant eagle swooped down beside them, initially annoyed about a trespasser. But upon seeing who it was, the bird's attitude flipped. It cheerfully told Enlai that if it had known she was coming, it would have caught her a plump fox for dinner. Enlai couldn't believe this wyvern was the boss of the region. As she rode through the sky, the eagle asked if she'd also heard about the Dullahan that appeared. Enlai confirmed, but got confused when the bird called it the little one. She was even more shocked to hear the eagle had planned to eat it. The giant bird explained the creature was badly hurt and reminded him of his own kids. Totally baffled, Enlai asked if it was still a Dullahan. The eagle cheerfully announced that it was at first, but now it's a chick. Enlai was completely baffled, wondering if Dullahans could even have chicks. Deciding she had to see this for herself, she asked the giant eagle to take her to where the creature was. The eagle seemed disappointed, reminding her they were supposed to go see its nest and kids. Enlai quickly promised this was important and she would visit them next time. Hearing this, the wyvern got super excited and immediately spun around. Before Enlai could even blink, it shot off at a crazy speed, leaving her to yell into the wind that it didn't have to go that fast. The eagle dropped Enlai at the mouth of a rocky cave. Still recovering from the insane flight, she stumbled to a halt. The bird warned her to be careful, saying the little one inside was hurt and cranky. Thanking it for the heads up, Enlai cautiously approached the entrance. It was too dark to see anything, so she called out, asking if anyone was in there. Her question was met with silence at first, but then two bright, glowing eyes suddenly snapped open in the pitch-black darkness, staring right at her. Trying to make sense of the glowing eyes, Enlai wondered if she was facing a legendary knight of the Round Table, or maybe the Dullahan she'd been told about. As she watched, a tiny, chubby chick waddled out from the shadows. It stopped right in front of her, looking up with sparkling eyes as a voice asked if she was its captain. Enlai was completely speechless. This fluffy little bird was the fearsome monster? She couldn't wrap her head around it, questioning how a tiny sparrow chick could ever grow up to be a headless knight. Enlai watched the tiny bird hop towards her and asked why it wasn't flying. The chick explained that its wings were injured. Gently scooping it into her hand, Annalie's only thought was how incredibly fluffy it was. The bird, however, seemed ashamed, apologizing for being unable to fulfill its duties as a knight. Still skeptical, she asked if it was really a Dullahan. The chick puffed out its chest and proudly declared itself to be Zigger, the 12th Knight of the Round Table. The sheer cuteness combined with the grand title was too much for Enlai to handle. The tiny chick, Zigger, looked up with huge, teary eyes, asking Enlai if she'd met another knight before him. Her mind flashed to the eagle, Nadav, and Zigger's mood instantly soured. That stubborn bird got to meet her first. Changing the subject, Enlai asked if this was just a temporary form, hoping to see his real self later. The little knight drooped, explaining he was too injured to transform back and apologized. Enlai just shrugged it off, telling him it was fine, which made the tiny bird's heart completely melt. The tiny knight was overcome with emotion, moved by his captain's generosity. With tears in his eyes, he declared that once he recovered, he would stand at the vanguard and strike terror into their enemies. Enlai just deadpanned, picturing the fluffy sparrow trying to be intimidating on a battlefield. As a dull ache spread through her hand, she told him not to overdo it and decided it was best to just head back. From the shadows, the wolf Nisi watched, completely unimpressed by this tiny, feeble new recruit. Nisi the wolf looked down on the tiny sparrow, Zigger, barely tolerating him as a temporary member of his pack. This did not sit well with the proud knight. Zigger puffed up his chest, calling Nisi an insolent wolf and challenging him to a proper duel later. Meanwhile, Enlai noticed her majestic warhorse Nadav could barely stand to look at the pitifully cute sparrow. As Xenon handed her dinner, she sighed, complaining that she never asked for a petting zoo. Xenon just clarified that only the wolf was his problem, the rest were hers. Xenon casually commented that at this rate, she'd end up hurting 10 animals. Enlai froze, asking if the number was seriously going to keep growing. With a deadpan expression, Xenon confirmed she could expect about 8 more. Completely bewildered, she sarcastically asked if this was a divine revelation to build a petting zoo or conquer the world. When he flatly said no, she scoffed. How could she conquer anything with a tiny sparrow? Realizing she couldn't just drag a whole menagerie around with her, she decided she desperately needed a plan. At the Grand Rome estate, Divine Knight Samuel confronted Duke Rome. He presented an official document, which the Duke questioned. Was this a formal complaint? Samuel confirmed it was. He explained that Sir Aaron, a Rome knight, had harmed the revived savior, Enlai. This was a crime the temple could not ignore. While there were calls for severe punishment under temple law, Samuel stated they ultimately chose to respect imperial law. The Duke sarcastically called this considerate. Samuel agreed, clarifying that if they hadn't been, they wouldn't be there delivering a simple complaint. Samuel laid out the cold, hard facts. News of the Holy Knights delivering a formal complaint to the Rome estate would spread across the entire empire. Even if they hid the details, Sir Aaron would still face a court of law. This was a public warning, making an example out of a Rome knight. Samuel explained that because the public still doubted Annalie's divinity, the high priest saw this as a test. The temple was offering a single chance for atonement. After a tense moment, the Duke's hand landed firmly on the document. He accepted. Samuel noted the Duke's chillingly calm expression as he pledged full cooperation. The man didn't even flinch hearing his own knight had threatened his daughter's life. Samuel issued a stark warning. If Sir Aaron confessed he was following orders, House Rome would not escape responsibility. But the Duke smoothly insisted the knight acted alone. With a final, skeptical hope that the Duke spoke the truth, Samuel departed. Once alone, the Duke's composure shattered. His hand tightened on the armrest, the wood groaning under the immense pressure of his hidden rage. The heavy door to a lavish office creaked open as Samuel stepped inside. Without wasting a second, a powerful official behind a desk demanded to know if the knight had seen her, if he had actually spoken with the resurrected Enlai Rome. Samuel simply stood in stony silence, his face unreadable. Elsewhere, The knight Xenon recalled the situation with pure contempt. In his mind, she wasn't a savior. She was just that mad Rome woman who got beheaded, and his cold glare showed exactly what he thought of her return. The streets were buzzing with a sickening rumor. Apparently, after Annalie's execution, her own family refused to claim her body, leaving it abandoned. While some were shocked, others sneered that she must have been truly awful for her own parents to disown her so completely. Overhearing the cruel gossip, the knight Xenon grimly agreed. Back in the lavish office, the powerful official's patience finally snapped. With a sharp crack, he slammed 2 quills onto his desk in pure frustration. Samuel stood impassively for a moment before turning to leave the explosive atmosphere behind him. As Samuel turned and walked away from the tense office, his mind was already on his next move. There was no time to linger. He needed to get to the palace, deliver the official complaint, and then immediately resume his search for Annalise. Just as he was leaving, a panicked voice called out, "Sir Holy Knight." Samuel paused, turning to see the blonde, noble girl, Lilia, rushing towards him. She looked up at him with a nervous expression, timidly confirming if he was who she thought he was. After confirming that he was indeed a holy knight, Samuel listened as Lilia apologized for stopping him. The young noble girl fidgeted nervously, but her eyes were filled with desperate hope. She finally blurted out the question that was plaguing her. Was the oracle true? Did God really bring her little sister back to life? Placing a hand over the holy symbol on his chest, Samuel looked down at her with unwavering conviction. He solemnly declared that there is never any falsehood in the voice of God, confirming Annalise's resurrection was real. Lilia admitted she just wanted to hear about her little sister. With hope in her eyes, she asked if Annalise was healthy and doing okay. She nervously added another question, wondering if the resurrected Annalise seemed like a different person or was saying strange things. Samuel, however, was blunt. He stated he'd never met her before her revival. Disappointed, Lilia didn't know what to say. But then, Samuel's expression hardened. He asked a sharp question that caught her completely off guard. Why did she call the revived woman her little sister? Samuel pressed Lilia, stating that he only knew of 3 legitimate children in the Rome family line, and she wasn't on that list. Flustered, Lilia quickly clarified that she was officially adopted into the house. Samuel simply apologized for his ignorance, blaming his sheltered life within the temple. Feeling bold, Lilia then revealed another shocking truth. She, not her sister, was now engaged to the crown prince. As Samuel processed this, he concluded that this meant the revived Annalise's connection to the empire had been completely severed. With his conviction solidified, Samuel told Lilia she had actually reassured him. He now understood that in serving Annalise, he had nothing to consider beyond her own will. Before a confused Lilia could process his cryptic statement, a sharp voice called her name. It was her father, Duke Rome, standing down the hall. As Lilia nervously greeted him, Samuel took the opportunity to turn his back and walk away without another word. The scene then shifts, plunging into the darkness of a mysterious, moonlit forest at night. In the quiet of a moonlit forest, Annalise recalled how Xenon sometimes sends Nessie into subspace. He confirmed it was for when they couldn't travel with the wolf out in the open. She then suggested they do the same for the horse and chick she had gathered. A confused Xenon teased her, asking if her grand plan was to build a zoo or achieve world domination with beasts. But Annalise's face fell. She clarified she wasn't planning anything at all. She was just leaving, and this was an act of charity. Xenon asked what came next. Her hollow reply was, nothing. Annalise confirmed his fears, stating she was going to do absolutely nothing. She would just sit back and let the world end. Stunned, Xenon pointed out that her plan went completely against the oracle's prophecy. She scoffed, asking if he seriously thought she was following some divine order. Her true goal was morbidly simple. If the world burns, maybe God would finally regret choosing her. As a memory of her peaceful final moment surfaced, Xenon cut through her thoughts with a dead-serious question. Did she actually want to die? Annalise just smirked at his question. She told Xenon she had already tried to end it all more than once, but she never managed to succeed. A life she had already given up on was shoved back into her hands, and now this so-called God wouldn't even let her put it down. Annalise remembered how she had peacefully let go of everything. What she felt now wasn't a simple desire for the end. She was just tired, so sick of everything that even dying felt like too much of an effort. Annalise continued, asking why she should force herself to find an end when she just didn't care if tomorrow ever came. As Xenon tried to grasp the depth of her despair, she suddenly changed the subject. She told him that for answering his questions so honestly, he now owed her a favor. Completely thrown off, Xenon asked what she wanted. Annalise's request was about the animals. She wanted a way to bring them along, reminding him that he never actually said no before. A flustered Xenon admitted it wasn't classified, just extremely complicated. Anlai cut straight to the point, stating that if it's complicated, it means it's possible. She immediately assumed the issue was cost, telling him not to worry about money. A flustered Xenon explained that it wasn't about cash. Storing living creatures requires a highly specialized remodel of the entire subspace. He insisted there are very few people skilled enough for the job. But Anlai easily poked a hole in his argument, reminding him that someone obviously made the one Nessie uses. Cornered, he could only flinch as she demanded he spit out the real problem. Finally breaking down, Xenon yelled that the real issue was the artisan who could do the job. He clutched his head in frustration, admitting that his relationship with this person was absolutely terrible. But Anlai, completely unfazed by his emotional breakdown, just stared blankly and asked why that should be her problem. As Xenon cried, the scene shifted. Elsewhere, a man with red hair was busy writing when he suddenly paused, wondering why his ears were itching. He got up from his desk, suspecting that someone must be talking about him. Anlai brutally shuts down Xenon's drama, pointing out that his bad relationship with the artisan is his problem, not hers. With total scorn, she asks if they're children, questioning why she should avoid someone just because they don't get along. Anlai presses on, asking how she can take sides in a fight involving a person she's never even met. The pure logic of her words makes Xenon snap. He grabs her shoulders, exclaiming he knew it. But when she asks what he meant, he immediately backpedals, awkwardly blaming his emotional mood swings. Anlai was left confused, asking if she had said anything wrong. But Xenon just shut her down, telling her to forget it. He muttered that he was mistaken to think she would ever understand, leaving her completely baffled. The weirdly familiar dismissal triggers a strange memory for Anlai. The scene then cuts to Lilia and Maxel. Lilia calmly asks Maxel if she's wrong, stating she's only saying the most logical thing given their situation. In response, Maxel's hand tightens into a furious fist, showing he is anything but calm. The memory hits Anlai hard, throwing her back to a tense argument with Maxel. He had emotionally declared his fallen knight was like a brother, and he wasn't ready to find a replacement. Anlai tried to reason with him, pointing out that a prince couldn't just leave the position vacant. Furious, Maxel cut her off, coldly stating she would never understand and that their conversation was pointless. The shock of the memory causes her to stumble, but Xenon catches her, snapping her back to reality and asking what she was thinking about. Anlai quickly brushes off his concern, insisting it was nothing. Staring into the campfire, she tells herself that her past with Maxel is over and she will never have to see him again. She silently admits that she wasn't just upset back then, she was being emotional and childish by refusing to get a new knight. Watching her, Xenon's face flushes with embarrassment. He confesses that he was also being childish earlier. He then hesitantly asks if he can have her permission to join her travels from now on. Anlai is stunned by his request, but Xenon suddenly declares that he will take her side. Totally caught off guard, she asks him to repeat that. He insists he knows who his allies are and that he is choosing her. The weight of his own words seems to hit him hard, leaving him a blushing, emotional mess. Anlai stares blankly and asks if he's crying. Covering his face, he quickly denies it, claiming he's just moved. Utterly baffled, she deadpans that it sure looks like crying and asks what she said to get him so worked up. Anlai internally notes how surprisingly delicate Xenon is, while Nisi sleeps peacefully nearby. It seems even their other animal companions are pledging their loyalty, and she's just thankful Xenon can understand them. The conversation shifts as Xenon reports on a task. He contacted someone about a subspace magic tool, and it will take about half a month to complete. Anlai remarks that this is longer than she expected. Xenon quickly clarifies that getting it done in just 2 weeks is already insane, admitting he had to bluff hard to make it happen. Anlai traces a route on their map, suggesting they circle the mountains to align with their 2-week wait. But Xenon has a bolder idea, questioning why they don't just cut straight through the Freya region. He explains that since she was taken by monsters twice, every search party is combing the forests. They would never expect her to head straight for a city. Anlai realizes he's right. While Samuel can still track her, this plan will easily fool her family. Best of all, it's harvest festival season, making it the perfect time to disappear into a crowd. Anlai agrees to the risky plan, deciding to head straight for the city of Freya. Meanwhile, Maxel is blindsided when an aide bursts in with urgent news. A monster, a Dullahan of all things, just appeared in Freya before escaping. With the harvest festival approaching, panic is spreading like wildfire. The public whispers that God is furious because their resurrected savior was taken. Determined to control the chaos, Maxel orders the gates opened, declaring he will go and rally the people himself. This is a huge problem. The aide questions Maxel's decision, suggesting that a simple order through a communicator would be enough. But Maxel slams his hand down, flatly refusing. He explains that Freya hosts the Empire's largest harvest festival, making this a critical moment. To calm such an important region, his personal presence is the best solution. The aide, realizing his short-sightedness, hurries off to prepare the gate. Elsewhere, Lilia recalls a disturbing fact. The last time someone named Abeli went missing, the monster responsible was also a Dullahan. The connection is too strange to ignore. As they arrive in the city of Freya, Enlai is struck by the dead silence. She asks Xenon what kind of monster appeared to cause such a panic. Xenon confirms it was a Dullahan. Because of the creature, all the festival preparations have been completely halted, explaining the empty streets. A strange thought crosses Annalie's mind. Is this monster just a random beast, or could it possibly be a comrade? Clutching the necklace around her neck, she decides she has to go and check it out for herself. There has to be a connection. Xenon grabs Enlai, demanding to know if she's really going after the Dullahan. She calmly confirms her plan, telling him not to worry and to go on ahead. Unsettled, Xenon presses further, asking what her relationship is with monsters. Enlai coolly points out that the subordinates he brought with him are also monsters. Her beastly companions immediately bristle, ready to silence him for their captain. But before they can act, Nisi steps forward, growling. The wolf declares that Xenon is part of his pack and he will protect him. Xenon tries to talk some sense into her, pointing out how reckless it is to add even more monsters to their group. But Enlai calmly tells everyone to relax. Stroking her demonic horse, she explains that her companions follow her for a simple reason. They all want something from her. Since they believe she can make it happen, he doesn't need to worry about them causing trouble. Xenon demands to know what it is they want. Deciding it would be faster to show him, Enlai looks around. After confirming the streets are empty, she gives a command. With a simple command, Enlai summons her companion, and a massive, headless knight appears out of thin air. Xenon's jaw practically hits the floor. It's a Dullahan, the very monster that terrorized the city. Enlai calmly points out that the creature follows her simply because he's missing his head. Xenon is absolutely losing it. He's been traveling with a legendary monster this whole time and had no clue. But as the shock settles, a new horror dawns on him. He slowly turns, eyes wide, to look at the cute chick. If the big guy is a monster, what is that? The cute chick chirps, offering to show Xenon its true form. He immediately freaks out, yelling that he's good. A transforming Dullahan is more than his brain can handle. Shaking his head, Xenon decides ignorance is bliss. He declares he knows absolutely nothing, and Enlai coolly agrees. Meanwhile, back at the palace, a well-dressed man confirms that the king has given an order. Since their destinations are similar, his brother is to accompany someone to Freya while the long-distance warp gate is open for the harvest festival. After dismissing his aide, Maxwell is left alone with his bitter thoughts. He scoffs at the idea of a royal prince being forced to attend some boring countryside event, smirking that the situation is perfect for a loser like him. His brooding is cut short by a knock at the door. Annoyed by the interruption, he calls for the person to come in, assuming his aide returned. Instead, the door slowly opens to reveal a nervous Lilia. Surprised, Maxwell stands up and calls out her name. Maxwell asks Lilia why she dropped by the palace without any warning. Looking a bit flustered, Lilia apologizes, saying she knows he's busy but wanted to see his face before she left. Maxwell explains he's been swamped with the harvest festival and organizing search parties. She correctly guesses he means the hunt for the resurrected savior. Lilia questions his direct involvement, suggesting he has more than enough work already. But Maxwell insists the task is important, revealing that a noble of the Empire received a divine oracle and he must oversee the search personally. Lilia thoughtfully suggests that if a royal has to lead the search, he could just leave it to the first prince. After all, she heard his brother is back at the palace with nothing better to do. Her words hit a nerve. Maxwell's expression darkens, and he suddenly grabs Lilia by the shoulders, his grip tight. Ignoring her suggestion completely, he leans in and asks how her harvest festival preparations are going. The intense change of subject leaves Lilia completely baffled and speechless, unable to comprehend his bizarre reaction. Maxwell tightens his grip, telling Lilia that as his fiancée, she has to help with the event preparations. She tries to refuse, reminding him that formal gatherings make her uncomfortable, but he insists she can't avoid her duties forever. He pressures her to learn the ropes while he can still guide her before their marriage. Lilia tries to argue that she's hiring aides, but he coldly states it's her, not them, who needs to be ready. This is the last straw. Lilia finally breaks, shouting that she just escaped her sister's shadow and that he knows what Enlai did to her. Lilia's voice cracks as she asks Maxwell if he understands how scared she's been since Annalie's return. She's completely terrified, haunted by memories of how Enlai hated her until the very end. If the savior comes back, she fears the nightmare will just repeat itself. Seeing her genuine panic, Maxwell's expression softens. He pulls her into a comforting embrace, apologizing for not noticing her anxiety sooner. Crying into his chest, Lilia asks if he's sure it'll be okay. Maxwell firmly reassures her, telling her to just picture what will happen. As Maxwell reassures Lilia, he tells her to picture their perfect future, her swearing eternal love to him before God. His thoughts then turn venomously toward Anlai. He mentally lists everything she once had, coldly declaring that none of it will ever belong to her again. The terrifying future Lilia imagines will never happen. A dark resolve settles in his eyes as he makes an ironclad vow to himself. He absolutely will not allow Anlai to ruin their happiness again. Riding through the city at night, the hooded captain is on the hunt. A ghostly spirit materializes beside her, sensing something, a faint trace of energy left behind. Her companion, a bird-like creature named Zigger, confirms the feeling. It puffs out its chest, boasting it was the most sensitive of the 12 knights. The captain asks if their target is inside the city. Zigger isn't sure yet and needs to follow the trail a bit further. It gives her directions, and she urges her horse onward through the dark, empty streets. The hooded captain suddenly pulls her horse, Nadav, to a stop. Something feels off. Her companion, Zigger, asks if their target is inside the building, but she isn't sure. The captain feels the presence they're tracking, but it's incredibly faint. Suddenly, her horse grows agitated, its red eyes glowing as it senses danger. It rears back in a panic, spooked by a tiny bee buzzing nearby. Zigger lets out a shriek, excitedly telling his captain that the bee is carrying the exact trace of the knight they've been searching for. The tiny bee glows fiercely, confronting the hooded woman and demanding to know if she's also after its honey. Anlai is completely stunned. Is she actually understanding an insect? The bee zips around her, explaining she must be the captain its master was looking for. It reveals that some guy had smeared his energy all over their swarm just to track her down. The pieces click into place for Anlai. She asks in disbelief if he has somehow taken control of the entire swarm, wondering how that could even be possible. The little bee explains the big problem. Their queen is totally obsessed with the knight, and his presence almost started a war with another swarm. It begs Anlai to please hurry up and take him away. Zigger and her horse Nadav seem to understand, both telling her they think they know who it is. The bee informs her that the knight will find her in the morning. This confuses Anlai, but before she can process it, an angry man stomps up and demands to know if she's responsible for his flower pots. Anlai quickly pieces it together. Her horse Nadav kicked the pot when he got spooked. She apologizes to the furious shopkeeper, explaining her horse bolted after a bee's sting and offering to pay for the damages. But money isn't the problem. The man fumes that he desperately needed those flowers today and was already low on stock. Seeing she's a traveler, he tells her to forget it and go home. Unwilling to just walk away, Anlai insists she'll go to the nearby flower farm and buy him replacements herself, leaving the man completely stunned. The shopkeeper flips out, telling Anlai her idea is dangerously reckless. He warns her that the flower farm is closed, and she shouldn't dare go near it unless she wants her trip to end permanently. Nadav the horse bristles at his tone, but Anlai senses there's more to it. The man admits the place is where a headless ghost supposedly appears. After panicking that she jinxed them, he slams his door shut. The little bee zips away too, leaving Anlai to decide she'll handle the ghost and the flower problems separately for now. Anlai mulls over the ghost story. Could there really be two headless spirits haunting the area, or is one just a fake? Xenon wants to investigate the flower farm right away, but Anlai decides against it. It's getting late, and she figures they should head back to the inn for the night. Elsewhere, in a lavish mansion, nobles heap praise upon a royal visitor. This guest is none other than Maxwell. Unimpressed, he coldly tells them he's only there to do what's expected of him, his firm footsteps echoing as he walks past. A blonde nobleman greets Maxwell, calling him brother and noting he arrived earlier than planned. The head of the house politely offers to prepare a room, but Maxwell coldly refuses, stating he will manage his own schedule. The brother's friendly demeanor vanishes. He grabs Maxwell's collar, warning him about a so-called monster in the area. With a menacing glint in his eye, he tells Maxwell to bow his head and act smart if he doesn't want to lose it. He then abruptly laughs, pats Maxwell's shoulder and walks away. After the tense encounter, a servant offers to show Maxwell to his room. Maxwell looks out the window, noting the town's festival preparations and hoping they can continue safely. He then questions the servant about the monster his brother mentioned. The servant confirms there was property damage but no casualties. Maxwell asks why the city guards didn't handle it, but the servant reveals they couldn't just get rid of the creature. A dark realization dawns on Maxwell as he demands to know exactly where the monster appeared. The servant tells him the creature appeared at the old flower farm outside the city. An awful realization dawns on Maxwell. That's the exact place he's scheduled to visit tomorrow. He understands now that his official trip to encourage the festival was just a lie. He's being set up. Meanwhile, his brother thinks this is the perfect stage for a woman like Anlai, who desires a place in the palace. Maxwell's eyes glow a furious red. He knows he's a pawn, and he has to figure out his brother's real plan. Maxwell's brother gets lost in a twisted fantasy, picturing a woman named Amelia vowing her eternal love to him. He imagines she only has eyes for him and smiles just for him. He justifies his hostile behavior as simply firing back at provocations, smugly thinking of someone he looks down on as a mere stain. Meanwhile, Maxwell understands why she would never look his way. But then, a new possibility emerges. He wonders if something Enlai said actually managed to get through to Amelia, shaking her heart to its very core. Maxwell's brother recalls a chilling memory of Amelia. She had told him she never wanted to see him again, not even by accident. The reason? His face looked too much like Maxwell's, and the resemblance made her want to get physical before she could even think. But instead of understanding her rejection, a twisted idea sparks in his mind. All he needs to do is get rid of his resemblance to his brother, and she'll be his. Elsewhere, as a new day begins, Annalie's eyes snap open in complete shock. Anlai jolts awake in bed, her gaze locking onto a small, glowing bee hovering outside her window. The creature, named Tristan, bursts with excitement, dramatically declaring it a moving experience to finally meet the Great Witch. Unimpressed, Anlai cuts the monologue short, asking why it's still outside and telling it to come in. She immediately questions if Tristan settled things with the queen bee. It turns out another bumblebee complained that Tristan's actions nearly dragged its entire swarm into a deadly conflict. Flustered, Tristan insists it's all a big misunderstanding. Tristan brushes off the complaint, insisting he only asked for a little cooperation. Anlai cuts him off, completely unimpressed. Realizing his excuses won't work, Tristan decides to get serious. He declares that he's actually a wanderer searching for his lost head. Anlai watches in shock as the tiny bee explodes in a cloud of dark energy. Before she can react, a massive, headless knight in full armor stands where the bee was. He kneels before her, apologizing for his outburst and formally introducing himself as Tristan, 11th Knight of the Round Table, at her service. The massive knight kneels, mortified at showing what he calls another disgraceful side. Anlai, however, is completely unfazed. She deadpans that it's bold of him to scratch a head he doesn't have and questions why he's so worked up. Suddenly, a loud crash outside interrupts them. Xenon bursts into the room in a panic, asking what's wrong. He's followed by a growling wolf, Nisi, and other familiars who immediately blame the headless knight for the commotion. Nisi stares, wondering if the knight is alright or just completely fearless. Seeing no immediate danger, Xenon decides he's going back to sleep. Anlai, clearly exhausted, agrees and tells him to go. Later, she gets the full story on Tristan's bumblebee fiasco. Xenon confirms things with the queen bee ended cleanly, but his expression sours as the true meaning sinks in. A moment of horrified silence passes before he deadpans that their headless knight is truly a man of many talents. Apparently, negotiation is one of them, and it seems Tristan's methods are brutally effective, much to Xenon's dismay. Anlai questions how she's supposed to tie a ribbon to conceal Tristan's aura. Xenon reassures her, explaining that since Tristan is an insect familiar, his energy is practically undetectable anyway. Suddenly, a commotion from the street below grabs their attention. Xenon notes the city is unusually noisy. Anlai wonders if a monster attacked, but he points out the crowd seems way too cheerful for that. Curious, she calls Tristan. The tiny bee zips to attention, and Anlai orders him to find out what rumors are spreading through town. Anlai orders Tristan to investigate an old farm outside the city and report back. The tiny bee salutes and zips away on his mission. As Xenon watches him go, another one of Annalie's familiars, a large bird, dramatically declares that he'd be much better for the job if his wings weren't busted. Unimpressed, Anlai informs the bird that she wouldn't have sent him anyway. Completely overwhelmed by the growing chaos of her life, she mutters that her head is a mess and questions what she'll do if another headless knight joins their crew. Samuel jolts awake from a terrifying nightmare, his face covered in a cold sweat. He's haunted by the memory of how these encounters always end. Either a head rolls, or a final insult is cut short forever. He clutches at his own throat, the phantom sensation making it hard to breathe. He sits up, wondering if this is some kind of sign from God, but immediately dismisses the idea. A true divine sign wouldn't just leave a mess and vanish. Utterly tormented, he realizes with a heavy heart that she's right there, in the next room. Samuel is tormented by thoughts of Anlai. He questions why her presence feels so blindingly bright, making it impossible for him to face her honestly. He knows that simply claiming ignorance is just another way of denying the truth of his feelings. Telling himself there's no time to just stand there brooding, he feels a sense of urgency. A grim realization sets in. If he continues to drag his feet, he will lose her for good. With his mind made up, he decides he needs to move now. Xenon is absolutely beaming, thrilled at the chance to visit the Owen Flower Farm. He excitedly explains that with the upcoming festival, it should be in full bloom. Surprised, Enlai remarks that she didn't know he was a flower person. He asks if she dislikes them, but she gives a non-committal, not particularly. Xenon correctly guesses that she must like them, since who hates getting a bouquet? Enlai thinks to herself about the breathtakingly beautiful flowers she can create from water, sadly wishing she could show him, if not for her mana seal. Xenon is completely baffled, asking Enlai why she's wasting precious mana on something like that. She finds his question odd, thinking to herself that this was the entire point of learning magic. He can't believe what he's hearing and asks if she's joking, but she looks him dead in the eye, confirming she's dead serious. A memory surfaces of a frail boy whose very first act with mana was creating flowers. Enlai simply states that people have all kinds of motives. Seeing her expression, Xenon says he didn't mean to mock her, admitting he just didn't understand. Xenon offers her a hypothetical story. What if you wanted to give someone flowers, but they were allergic? If you suddenly discovered a talent for magic, you'd obviously create a special, one-of-a-kind flower just for them. He tells her he's glad to know her better. Enlai, caught up in the story, asks if the magical gift went over well. Xenon falls silent. He then sidesteps the question, remarking that Lady Enlai must have received plenty of bouquets in her life. This sudden pivot leaves Enlai completely baffled and speechless. Enlai is stunned by his directness, realizing no one has ever been so blunt. Xenon breaks the silence, asking if nobles really plant expensive flowers just for a single season's enjoyment. Enlai confirms some do. He figures such luxuries mean little to the wealthy, and she can only agree. As they continue walking, Xenon suggests they split up upon reaching the Crown Prince's palace. Enlai agrees without question. Soon after, she rides her horse through a vast flower field toward a grand gate, as unseen figures excitedly announce that they have finally arrived. As Enlai arrives, a new group is already there. A small bird-like creature feels a strong presence, but a hooded figure with them adds a warning. They sense a dangerously unstable energy fluctuating from a nearby greenhouse and tell Enlai to be careful. A knight named Zigger declares he's on high alert, then questions how the hooded figure will keep up on foot. Before they can answer, Enlai simply holds out her hand, offering them a spot on her horse. The figure seems surprised by the kind gesture. The hooded figure holds up a small, black bird-shaped object, confirming if Zigger is the knight. Suddenly, the little bird companion panics, exclaiming that something just vanished from inside the trinket. The figure asks what it means, and the creature, now trembling on their finger, confirms it's gone, wondering if it transformed. In a flash, it shouts that he is here. The figure recalls that the person's memories are sealed, making his transformations unpredictable. They dryly comment that if his life as a crow was that pitiful, he could have just ended up as an ant. The hooded figure is completely baffled. Apparently, the person who just transformed is now known as the Empire's most passionate knight, but he's also a knight searching for his own lost head. They wonder aloud what they're even supposed to do with a situation like that. Suddenly, an intense energy wave slams into them, making them cry out and stagger backward. They clutch their head in pain as the small black trinket in their hand begins to vibrate uncontrollably. The backlash is overwhelming, and they struggle just to stay on their feet, completely disoriented. From the bushes, the hooded figure spots someone sitting in a clearing and quietly recognizes them as their captain. But as they get a closer look, they realize something is seriously wrong. The captain has no head. Panicked by being discovered, the headless figure frantically scrambles to their feet. The hooded figure yells for them to wait, but it's no use. In a burst of speed, the captain makes a desperate escape, crashing straight through the glass wall of the nearby greenhouse, leaving their companion completely stunned by the bizarre scene. Meanwhile, Maxwell arrives at a flower farm, where he's greeted by several officials. They express their relief at his presence, but he cuts right to business, asking if they have guards stationed inside the property. An official explains that to focus on defending the city, they simply sealed the main entrance and left it unguarded. Maxwell is absolutely horrified by this news. He lets out a shocked cry, realizing the catastrophic mistake they just made. Someone important is trapped on the other side of that gate, and they've been left completely vulnerable. An official suddenly panics, demanding to know why the main gate is open. His subordinate quickly apologizes, promising to investigate the breach immediately. But Maxwell cuts him off, dismissing the need for an investigation. With a cold and determined look, he announces that he will go in himself and orders them to lead the way. The startled officials have no choice but to comply. As they move forward, a dark smirk spreads across Maxwell's face, his eyes glowing with an ominous red light as the massive gates swing open before him. As Sir Aaron offers to guide Maxwell through the flower farm, he proudly calls it one of the area's finest locations. Nearby, Xenon overhears the officials making some nasty assumptions about the kind of girl who would live in such a place. Visibly irritated by their disrespect, Xenon clenches his jaw and walks away, deep in thought. He realizes that with Anlai now being the resurrected savior, they can't just eliminate the monster that took her. A grim certainty settles over him. She is undeniably at the center of this entire mess. As a man with dark hair and glasses walks along the path, he suddenly stops. He looks down, spotting shattered glass scattered across the cobblestones. Kneeling for a closer look, he wonders why it's there. Before he can figure it out, a hand clamps over his mouth from the shadows, silencing him completely. A quiet voice tells him to wait. The man's eyes widen in shock as he recognizes the voice. The person behind him then whispers a chilling question, asking if he's planning on screaming. A mysterious figure with long dark hair and glasses swiftly corners the hooded woman, addressing her respectfully as his lady. Her purple eyes widen in shock, not at the intrusion, but at his glasses. A sudden memory flashes through her mind, a vision of Maxwell, his eyes glowing a menacing red as he picked up an identical pair from a table. Back in the present, the man apologizes for his forwardness and firmly instructs her to come with him, leaving her completely stunned and unable to react. The mysterious man grabs Annalie's hand, pulling her along a path as she protests. She demands to know why he's here, but he simply shushes her and offers some strange advice about her tie. He then reveals that Maxwell is on his way with knights, sending a wave of panic through her. Cursing her bad luck, Anlai notices him staring. When she confronts him about it, he just smiles calmly, claiming there's no particular reason. His smug confidence only unnerves her more as he leads her away from the approaching trouble. Anlai mentally scoffs, realizing Maxwell walked right into this mess alone. She wonders if Lilia came along for a romantic flower viewing date. The mysterious man quickly clarifies Lilia isn't here. He explains that Maxwell only came because he heard a monster had appeared nearby. Warning her that the area is not secure, he tells her to leave quickly, especially to avoid a runaway Dullahan. Anlai thanks him and turns to leave, but he suddenly grabs her arm, his eyes glowing a menacing red. Shocked, she demands to know who he really is. Just as Anlai demands answers, a new challenger appears. A man with fiery red hair, Xenon, steps in front of her protector, ordering him to back off. Anlai, watching from her horse as her wolf companion growls, tells them both to stay put. But Xenon warns the mysterious man not to interfere. Unfazed, the man with glasses declares he's escorting Anlai, and anyone with business has to go through him. Xenon scoffs, dismissing him as a servant, but the man's red eyes glint as he coolly denies the title. The mysterious man and Xenon are locked in a tense stare-down, neither willing to back down an inch. Elsewhere, a cloaked Anlai gets an update from her bird-like companion, Ziggu. It confirms the Dullahan they're hiding is still close. Satisfied, she orders Ziggur to keep them both concealed while she steps out for a bit. The little creature puffs its chest out, ready for the mission. Anlai then turns to her wolf, Nisi, asking for a scouting report. The proud beast just scoffs, reminding her that it's the pack leader here. With the pride of a pack leader, Nisi informs Anlai that ensuring everyone's safety is his duty. He's already found 3 different exits for them. Anlai gives a small smile, admitting she knew she could count on him. Turning to the others, she decisively tells Xenon it's time to leave. He agrees immediately, ready to follow. As they walk away, she glances back at the baffled man in glasses. She coolly tells him not to just stand there and to come along, leaving him completely stunned by the unexpected invitation. The mysterious man in glasses gratefully accepts Annalie's invitation. Later, in a safe location, Xenon expresses his relief that she's unharmed, revealing the earlier chaos was because the Crown Prince was visiting. Anlai turns to their new companion and bluntly asks if he shouldn't be on his way. But the man insists he can still be useful, especially considering the dangerous people chasing her. Xenon's eyes widen, suddenly realizing Anlai is planning to ditch the official search parties and go on the run completely. Anlai confirms Xenon's fear, reminding him that she's taken matters into her own hands before and is simply doing it again now. But Xenon's attention shifts completely. His gaze locks onto the new guy, grilling him about his relationship with Anlai. Is he close to her? The mysterious man, however, doesn't even flinch. He flips the script entirely, questioning why Xenon is the one calling her by her first name. The unexpected counterattack leaves the red-haired knight completely baffled and at a loss for words. Anlai shuts down any weird ideas, telling the new guy that she and Xenon are just travel buddies, nothing more. The man in glasses, catching her vibe, makes a bold proposition. He tells her that if she's bothered by him using her first name, she can use his. Then, with a sly grin, he immediately calls her Enlai, leaving her totally flustered. He explains that being called Your Highness is way too conspicuous for their secret journey. Watching this exchange, Xenon's mind races. This guy is definitely not just some random dude. Xenon's mind races, connecting the dots. For a duke to show that much respect, this new guy had to be imperial family. But the mysterious man suddenly changes the subject, asking Enlai about something he noticed back at the farm. He points out how the animals seem to follow her so well. He admits it sounds crazy, but to him it looked like she was actually speaking to them. Caught completely off guard by his sharp observation, Enlai hesitates before deciding to reveal part of her secret, warning that believing it is his problem. The man in glasses realizes that her ability to talk to animals is how she's been slipping away all this time. Needing a private conversation, Enlai suddenly turns to Xenon and tells him to go handle the meal prep. Totally baffled, the knight asks if she seriously means right now. With a firm, unblinking stare, she confirms her order. Defeated, Xenon agrees to bring the food out later and shuffles off. Now that they are finally alone, Enlai sits down, ready to talk business with the man who saw her secret. The mysterious man's mind flashes back to a tense moment with a woman named Lady Hyrai. He recalls asking her bluntly if she only intended to use him to reclaim her power. Visibly hurt, Lady Hyrai denied it, asking if she looked like a schemer. She then challenged him, saying he had no other reason to help her. In response, he just let out a bitter laugh, cynically wondering who would ever cooperate with him on a plot like that, revealing a glimpse of his isolated past. The man lets out a weary sigh, lamenting that this is how little she thinks of him. His mind drifts back to a conversation, recalling Maxwell's cold words to Lady Hyrai. He had warned her that the Emperor wanted her in the imperial family. Her only other option was to be left alone with him, a clear threat. Enraged, Lady Hyrai had silently called him insane. She then told the man that if she truly craved power, she would simply persuade the Emperor to keep the revived one close for their marriage. The mysterious man clenches his fist, explaining that if he just wanted power, he wouldn't be pouring his heart out to her. He declares that's not what he wants, and he has no intention of forcing her into anything. A painful memory flashes in his mind as he reveals his true reason. He doesn't want to repeat his past regrets. Enlai is skeptical, asking if that's really his only motive. After a moment, the man admits there is one thing he wants. A wave of resignation washes over Enlai, who knew it all along. Nothing is ever free. Enlai admits that his honesty makes the situation easier to accept. The man then reveals the one thing he desires, her affection. Her eyes widen in disbelief. He clarifies that he wants the affection Maxwell was too foolish to recognize, even when she was right there. But Enlai flatly rejects his proposal. Shaking her head, she tells him he'd be better off wanting someone else. Completely unfazed, the man's expression remains calm. He had expected her to say that all along. Maxwell sits alone in his room, brooding as the moon hangs high in the sky. He reflects on the recent news. The Dullahan hasn't been found. It was last spotted at a farm, but it might have moved on, or maybe it was never real in the first place. The neighbors are all breathing a collective sigh of relief, glad the monster is gone. But for Maxwell, there is no comfort. A profound sense of emptiness consumes him. He questions why, despite the good news, he feels so incredibly hollow. Needing to clear his head, Maxwell steps out for a walk under the starry sky. The cool night air offers a small comfort as he wanders aimlessly, ending up in a field of purple flowers. Suddenly, his eyes widen. He remembers the rumors that circulated about the Dullahan. What if the creature wasn't a monster, but a ghost instead? A disturbing thought begins to take shape in his mind, and he can't understand why this possibility fills him with such an unsettling feeling of dread. As Maxwell dismisses his dark thoughts, a sudden rustling sound cuts through the night. He calls out, asking if anyone is there. His eyes lock onto a hooded figure standing silently among the purple flowers. A gust of wind shifts the cloak, revealing a flash of white hair and piercing purple eyes that make his heart stop. In a choked whisper, filled with a mix of horror and disbelief, Maxwell breathes out a name he thought was lost forever, questioning if his eyes are deceiving him. He asks if it's Adelie.